for political violence? Democrats or Republicans? And today, the structure of this conversation is going to be, we'll give everyone a chance to introduce themselves, then we'll do 2-minute openers, and then we'll have a free-form discussion. Hopefully, I can stay out of the conversation as much as possible. I only have 2 roles.
Somebody asked
1,
if I
try to
debate
stick to the
straight
subject,
men.
and 2, try not to
Can't get mad at me
interrupt
that
each
the
other
left is
as
full of
much as
gays.
possible.
What do you get mad at me for that
Mr.
for?
Soy Pill, would
Not
you
my
like
fault.
to shout yourself out?
Yeah, what's up? I'm the Soy Pill. Thanks for having me. I do video essays and I stream sometimes. Do I give my intro now or just say who I am?
We'll do openers
later. Okay, yeah, that's me.
And then John Paul.
All right, I'm John Paul. I am a student at UC Berkeley, where I'm studying philosophy, economics, and public policy. I'm also the president of the Turning Point USA chapter here, and I've made several appearances on media outlets such as Fox News or the Charlie Kirk Show, and have done a lot of work within the conservative movement.
All right, Mr. Andrew Wilson.
Yeah, my name is Andrew Wilson. I'm the host of The Crucible. I'm a political satirist. I'm a political analyst, and I do debates of all sorts all around the world.
All right, and finally, Vince.
I am the Vince Wilson Show. I am a political commentator. I stream on YouTube, Twitch, and occasionally I will be on TikTok Lives, and I try to post as many YouTube Shorts and TikTok Lives as possible, so you can find me on any of those platforms.
All righty. Soy, you have 2 minutes.
Intro? Yeah, I'll be faster than that. So yeah, the stats show that the overwhelming majority of political violence is committed by the right wing, but I wouldn't attribute all of this to rhetoric. I think many people need extreme circumstances or mental illness in their life to want to risk everything and think that their violence will have substantial impact. It's also kind of silly that we talk about political violence in America as some sort of like major thing when you can look at, I don't know, the Troubles during Ireland or any other political violence where it becomes a part of everyday life with paramilitaries. But to be fair, we're still going to, centralize this to America. And I think that ultimately, if we want to look at whose rhetoric is more harmful, it's undeniably also the right. Democrat politicians, again and again, will try to build bridges and condemn violence, while Republicans, especially Donald Trump, will deflect, turn up the temperature, and even pardon those who commit political violence on his behalf, calling to defeat the enemy within, the Democrats, the extremist party, or in some cases, the party of pedophiles. So I think the rhetoric and blame is incredibly one-sided.
All right, John and Paul.
All right. Once again, I just want to thank everyone for being here tonight and everyone who's watching. And tonight's debate hinges on whoever can pin the most blame on the opposing mainstream political party. And I never thought I'd have to debate violence against the party of death, rights, and abortion, but here I am defending what I believe to be the obvious answer to the question. Now, due to the left's tendency to misclassify and misrepresent political violence, I will be extra clear on the framework for the debate morally and definitionally. Violence is the behavior involving physical force to cause harm or destruction. And when that violence is political, it is set to achieve certain political ends. When we analyze which party is more culpable for the presence of political violence, we must look at the specific actions taken by the mainstream party that are plausibly linked to the occurrence of those political violent actions. The more impactful, damaging, and persistent that political violence is, the more culpable the mainstream party is as a result, assuming you could properly link the party to the violence. With that said, the core distinction here between the two parties is clear. Almost all violence from the right comes from the fringe right and is always condemned, whereas almost all violence from the left comes from the overwhelmingly present factions with strong ideological backing and influence in the mainstream Democratic Party, which typically normalizes, excuses, or rationalizes violence. The violence from the fringe right cannot be linked to the Republican Party since, again, their ideology is never taken seriously by the party, and such violence is always condemned. The violence from the left is strongly associated with the rhetoric, ideology, and the movement of the mainstream left, which is culpable for fostering a climate for such violence. In modern U.S. history, the largest sustained political violence comes from the left, in which the mainstream persistently tries to exclude reports of discussion or political violence, namely the 2020 BLM and Antifa riots, which caused $2+ billion of destructions, dozens of murders, and thousands of injured officers. Kamala Harris, as a response, promoted the Minnesota Freedom Fund that bailed out rioters, and major news outlets described the arson as looting as justice, with many left-wing academics and activists openly arguing that property destruction isn't violence. The aggressive and persistent references to Republicans as fascist Nazis and literally Hitler also does not help. If you think it is good to kill Hitler, which it is, then it is good to kill Republicans. Maybe that's why Charlie Kirk's assassin etched in Antifa slogans and catch fascist on the bullet that he used to shoot him with. So the distinction is clear. If a pro-life Jewish conservative walks onto Columbia University, he's at risk of being assaulted.
You almost done?
Yes, this will be the last line. If a pro-life Jewish conservative walks on Columbia University, he is at risk of being assaulted. Whereas if a general Democrat walks on Hillsdale College, he's at risk at losing a debate. So I think the framework for this is very clear. Fringe right is responsible for most of the violence from the right, whereas the mainstream left is responsible for building the climate that creates these large-scale violent acts.
All right. Thank you very much. Andrew Wilson.
Shouldn't the leftists go first? So it's left, right, left, right.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point, actually. I was just going in order of introduction.
I mean, not to tell you how to run your own show, but just so you know, I'm better at it than you. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks. Thank you. Vince.
Yeah, I got you. So, who is more responsible for political violence in America? The evidence shows the right commits more of it, but the difference isn't just in the numbers, it's in the response. When violence comes from the left, Democrats condemn it outright. When it comes from the right, Republicans deflect, blame mental illness, and ignore their own rhetoric. That imbalance matters. One party takes responsibility, the other refuses. Own the consequences of its rhetoric, it becomes indirectly more responsible for the violence that follows.
All righty. Thank you for the very succinct opener. And Andrew.
Yep.
That's it. Okay.
Yeah.
All
very
right.
succinct. To the point.
Yeah, I guess. All right. So all of the claims from our opponents are going to hinge on studies that I guarantee you none of them have read. The soy pill likely will actually tell you the truth about that. He's pretty good about that. He'll probably actually tell you, you know what, I didn't actually read any of these. Vince Wilson will not. He'll pretend like he did, but he didn't read any of them. Let me tell you how I know that. I know that because of all the claims as I've gone through the two which they focus on, which are from the Cato Institute, and then the second one, which is from a specific project that an Antifa member is in charge of. The first claim is that the right is responsible for 6 times as many terror deaths compared to the left, and that's according to Cato. That's what they focus on. And the truth, Cato only focuses on deaths from terrorism and has glaring omissions, which put the entire study in question, which includes the fact that Michael Renault is Portland Antifa, and he's on camera saying, well, that he is. So anyway, Daryl Brooks, who's a noted black supremacist, in case you guys don't know this, killed 6, all white, injured 70, comments on whites. As we get into the study, guess what? Not included, even though there's a political motive. We can compare this. So, by the way, the Atlanta spa shooting, this is with Robert Aaron Long, listed as right-wing, killed 8. But what's really funny about this is if we compare it with Sutherland Springs, where 26 are dead, it's not included at all. So every time I make a comparison to when the motivation was pretty clearly left-wing, they just don't include them. So what I need to see is, one, I need to see in their studies that the 2020 Summer of Love, baby, actually is counted as a left-wing violence. It's not going to be, which skews the numbers. And also, I have an exhaustive, almost exhaustive list of left-wingers who have conducted political violence who are not included in any of these studies. Example, I think his name is Mauricio Garcia. He killed 8. The ADL disputed that was even politically motivated. Vance Bolter, this is another one. He explicitly told reporters that it wasn't due to pro-lifer Trump that the congresswoman, that he shot this congresswoman because he was anti-abortion. None of these things get included or classified correctly. And so here's what's going to happen. Every study you fuckers cite, you dishonest fucking leftist scumbag cite, I'm going to pull it up, and I'm going to go through and I'm going to look for these names. And if those names aren't there, they're not cited in there, I'm going to know that you're a bunch of gutless fucking liars, didn't read your own shit, because that's what always happens, right? Every single time. You're a bunch of filthy, gutless, lying sons of bitches, and you're not going to get away with it today. We're going to go through your dumbass studies, and we're just going to look at the classification. We're going to find out that when it's reclassified correctly and we take out, prison violence from prison Nazi gangs, that, it turns out not quite as lopsided as we've been led to believe. So, yeah, I'm happy to get into this debate. And John, it's nice to meet you. And let's stomp these fucking tards.
Alrighty, gentlemen, the floor is yours.
Yeah, just first off, I want to say, Andrew, you jumped ahead of yourself a little bit there. I am not using the Cato Institute. I'm not using the ADL. I'm using the Center for Strategic and International Studies, which is the one that kind of
the CSIS.
Yeah, the CSIS.
Yeah, I got him. I got him in front of me.
You got him up. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That one maps up to the DOJ one as well, which is taken down, right?
Yeah. Would you like to go through the CSIS and look at all of the disputes and problems that I have with the CSIS study?
I would actually ask you to affirmatively show me any sort of study that shows that the right wing is overwhelmingly not the committers of violence. You can poke holes in anything, and I understand that, hey, this didn't include that, and you could have up to thousands of examples. But if there are thousands of examples of violence, and your little discrepancies are well within the margin of error, unless you can provide me a study that shows that the right wing is not committing more violence, I'm sorry, I'm not going to play this doesn't count because I don't want it. So let's see your study.
First, we need to make sure that we classify these things correctly. Can we classify what you and I, or what we and your side would consider to be right or left wing, and what would fit in that category, so that we can determine if those people who fit in that category are conducting violence or not?
I bet if we get into the definition game, we're going to be here for 2 hours, but we can try.
Well, I mean, I think it's pretty important that we understand that if there's people here who are being included who you don't even consider left-wing or right-wing, that they probably shouldn't be included to begin with, right?
Yeah,
and
like,
by the way, hang on. Let me finish. Almost done. I'll toss it back over. The biggest problem that you have with your frontal argument here is you're saying, on the positive front, if you don't show me studies, even though you're already disagreeing with the classifications in these studies, which are already out here, that somehow that means that we lose. That's absurd. I'm disagreeing with these classifications to begin with. And if you could show me the equivalent of your high-profile leadership getting shot and your president's almost getting murdered, I'd love to see it. But your studies, the studies which are used for this positive claim that right-wingers are doing it more, are very suspect.
Right. I'm not saying that if you can't give me a study that shows that left-wingers do it more, that you lose the debate. I'm saying that I have a classification that I mostly agree with that's used here. And if you have a different classification, or if you heavily disagree with this classification, I would love to see some evidence that uses your classification and also shows that left-wingers do it more.
Well, let's start with your truth
if you were
claim.
able to take the numbers out of this study and say, well, actually, I classify this differently, we can compare those two numbers, and then ultimately, drop a new graph, sure, I could use that. That would be fine. But otherwise, I don't think there's a point in going through and saying, well, I have a minutia of problems with this classification. Therefore, especially when in my intro, I said specifically, if we want to get into the rhetoric and what is actually causing it, I think that's much more important, but we could do either one.
Well, the first thing that we would need to do is create these classifications to make these determinations, to make sure you even agree with them yourselves. Why is that so important? Because if your fucking assholes are going to be running around telling people that the right is committing much more political violence than the left, and then banking on studies as the thing which proves this for you, then you're going to need to demonstrate that first and foremost.
I think you ought to demonstrate how Darrell Brooks, who killed Sticks, was a politically motivated attack. Can you elaborate that for me, Andrew?
What's that?
Can you elaborate how Darrell Brooks, who killed Six, was a politically motivated attack? You mentioned him in your opening.
Oh no, I was making a comparison about how they don't make these classifications correctly by their own rules in that particular study. I'd have to bring both those studies up for the comparison, but that was the point I was making.
So Darrell Brooks' example is you just don't know nothing about that case, then, right?
And, can you repeat back what I just said, please?
I want you to answer mine.
I know, but I need you to repeat back what I just said so that I know that you know what I just said. What did I just say?
You were trying to mention in your opening how these are glaring contradictions.
No, I didn't say that they're contradictions. You're a fucking idiot. What I said was that if you make a comparison, this thing over here is left-wing violence. This other thing that's exactly like left-wing violence is not left-wing violence. It's omitted, right? Then what I'm asking is that if we're going to make these types of comparisons, let's create a classification for what we consider left-wing to be, what left-wing violence is, and then see if I can go through an extensive list of left-wing violence and make sure that these things were actually included, because if not, we have glaring omissions. Do you agree?
Okay, and you mentioned Darrell Brooks.
Yes, as a comparison.
How is Daryl Brooks? Hold on, no, Andrew,
Uh-huh.
answer my question. You mentioned it. How is that an example of left-wing extremism? Please
I
elaborate.
wasn't saying that it was. I was making
You
a
did. You
comparison
did.
that we can bring up all of these different names so that we can make a determination on if they are actually included as being left-wing violence, not left-wing violence, right-wing violence, not right-wing violence.
And you use Daryl Brooks. So answer the question.
What's the question?
Why did you use Daryl Brooks as a form of left-wing extremism?
I
Elaborate on
didn't.
the
I
case.
didn't.
Tell me about the case.
I didn't, you stupid fuck.
you did.
I didn't.
Yes, you did. You did.
Okay, fine.
You
Then I
quite
guess
clearly
I'll
did.
clarify as much as I possibly can since you have the IQ of the room that you're in. Very clearly, what I'm trying to do is establish a comparison contrast. Left wing versus right wing. And if we agree thing, left wing or right wing, and then we can determine if they in study or not in study. That's it.
Did you or did you not use Daryl Brooks as an example of left-wing extremism?
No, I don't think I did. I think I was making an example
Okay.
of
We're just
comparisons.
lying. Go ahead. Go ahead. We'll continue.
But in
You're
any
just
case,
lying.
I just clarified it 15 fucking times. If that's what you heard, then that's not
And I
definitely
just-
not what I
just proved
meant.
that- I
So
just
who
proved that You
cares?
did not do any basic research on what the Daryl Brooks case was about. So I'm glad. We'll continue. Go ahead.
What does this have
Well,
to do
fundamentally-
with anything? In fact, even better, let's say I'm completely ignorant on all of these cases. Then I guess going through each of them and determining whether or not they're left or right wing violence would behoove both of us, wouldn't it?
I think that we should stay focused on less about these definitions, which we can get into, but it's just gonna be a semantic.
What is more
I
fucking
think we should stick to.
This is
So-
this is a semantical.
so-
This entire argument is semantics. Left wing versus right wing violence is completely 100% semantics. What else is it? What else is it
Vince-
besides semantics, bro?
Vince,
So-
the issue is that we're not going to, that we're talking about the semantics because the studies are primarily focused on classification. They're not going to include the 2020 BLM and Antifa riots because property destruction, for some reason, lighting a building on fire is not political violence. But when a white supremacist who became a white supremacist in prison to survive commits assault on another prisoner, somehow that is political violence perpetuated by the right. And your burden is much, much more stronger than simply citing a number in a study. You can't just cite a number in a study, say, hey, look, this study based off of faulty classification shows that there's more political violence from the right. You can't just do that because you don't know the proper classifications of things. And when you do adjust for the classifications of things, you understand where the largest scale scope of political violence has occurred, which side it is from. And you see that the left has persistently, time and time again, excused, rationalized, stood in front of burning buildings, saying the mostly peaceful protest behind me. And you go there and you cheer with these studies and saying, like, look at this
Chuck
study.
Schumer
This is
go
what I
out and
have.
said, that's great. So if you go to the BLM protests, you can see where Chuck Schumer actually came out and said that the small minority who have exploited the protests to wreak havoc and violence are wrong, and they are not taking part in the grand American tradition of First Amendment protests. That was from
Okay, so why do you
the BLM
think
protest.
Kamala Harris
We also had
raised
Gretchen
bail
Whitmer.
funds
That's
for-
great. We still had Gretchen
That
Whitmer.
has
who
nothing to
said
do with
these
anything.
who have taken to the streets yes, because what it means is that the left, once again, as I mentioned, consistently condemns the rhetoric. I would encourage you to point out to me, for example, where you could maybe point to January 6th and say where Donald Trump condemned it, yet he then pardoned over 1,600 defendants. So again, you want to talk about how the left never condemns any of this rhetoric. There's several examples in which the left consistently condemns this rhetoric.
Wait, I'm confused.
But the right
Did you
never
just
does.
say? Did you just say that Donald Trump endorsed J6 by not pardoning the J6 defendants?
No, by
I
pardoning
said-
them is what he said.
Yeah,
Yes.
and how long did that take for the pardons to
How long
come
did
through?
what take?
For the pardons to come through for the J6ers.
Why does that matter?
Well, because
4 years.
because
It's 4
well because the reason that would matter is because that would mean that he allowed for evidentiary findings to come through before he made the decision about pardons or not pardons, right?
Right. So when he pardons someone like Enrique Tarrio for committing, seditious conspiracy to overthrow the government, who is convicted of that and in jail for that, and he pardons him because he aligns with this political agenda, that is somehow exculpatory, matters that
I
the
think
evidence came out later.
you're-
Like, what does that have to do with it?
First of all,
You're jumping way off the scale. of
totally
the- of the-
totally
we
off
are,
the
but I just
topic.
think this is a
But I'm
very
but I'm
weird
actually
one.
happy.
Trying to
Just
answer.
very quickly, I'll engage with this. Right, the president has discretion to make those pardons based on what he considered to be a political witch hunt.
Yeah,
whether the
I'm
guy
aware
was
of it. Yeah,
convicted,
and it's
whether
endorsing people
he
who
was
did
convicted
or you plan to overthrow
or
the
not, and just like how Joe Biden decided to pardon his kid on the way out the fucking door. Okay, thing is,
Sure.
is like
And if his
you
kid
could
had
say
been,
you could
arrested for
say
violence, I would
like
say that's an
you could
endorsement of
say
Hunter
you could
Biden
say what
violence,
you
right?
want there, but the thing is that the president has the power to make these pardons based on what he thinks is best, and he thought that there was a political witch hunt and that this guy didn't deserve to be thrown in prison for this.
Yeah, that's a lot of words to say he pardoned a seditious conspiracist. But I want to get back to this BLM thing because when we're talking about political violence and why or why not this is classified as political violence, I think you have to look at what is the downstream like following of a partisan message from Democrats, from Republicans, and what is actually happening here. You can call BLM political violence if it's, hey, these people were trying to. Well, hold on, let me see. Do you guys agree on the definition that political violence is a violent or credible threat of violence intended to influence government policy or intimidate civilians for political or ideological purposes?
I think it's close enough. I may make slight addendums, but I think it's close enough for this discussion.
I like
Just
to
in case, what would you amend?
I like to predicate it with causing harm or destruction.
Yeah, or coercion.
Sure. I would say, like I'm not going to get pedantic and say that violence or threats or even, burning down buildings is somehow not political violence, just to be clear. I don't think that's why it's not counted. I think the reason BLM
And when they were burning down police stations, did any of these studies include that? Just
I'm
wondering.
not sure, but again, the problem
Probably
is
not.
doing this. It might not have for that specific one, but when you look at the totality of all of these things and you look at people rioting and taking advantage of a movement, which again, as much as it is a meme, were overwhelmingly peaceful as a percentage, is not the same as political violence intended to spread a message, change people's ideology.
Did you really just do the fiery
back.
but mostly peaceful line?
I don't know what
the
that
fiery
was.
but mostly
That's
peaceful.
Literally,
I think it's actually really.
had no violence.
I think it's really
in them,
telling.
but, yeah.
I think it's really telling that the majority of this organization was mostly peaceful. When you have such large scale violence and destruction, $2+ billion of damages.
Here, I'll build a bridge to you,
killed.
John. I think the MAGA movement is mostly peaceful as well, despite January 6th and any violence committed by MAGA.
Right. Okay. So I think there's something really crucial about the framework of this debate here is that we're trying to analyze which party is more responsible. So when you say that, like Donald Trump pardoning people 4 years after the violence was committed, then you're not really showing any culpability for Donald Trump. He didn't do anything to cause the violence. For instance,
we can get to the January 6th causes, but I'm specifically saying that he is showing that there's no consequences to committing political violence on his behalf. The reason I'm bringing up the BLM,
they were in jail for years. What are you talking about, dude?
He wasn't president when he wanted to pardon them.
I know.
I was just
Wait. Donald Trump could have pardoned all of those people on his way out of office. What are you talking about?
No, I don't think he could have done that.
I think he could have. Yes, he could have.
Within his power, but I don't think it was in the political set to do it at the exact moment.
Oh, so he could have. So he could have then, is what you're saying? He could have.
I don't know if he could have mass pardoned them in.
Why not?
Before any of their sentences were finished.
Yes, he could have. You can pardon somebody before they ever even have to face a federal trial. You pre-pardon them.
I don't know if that was within his purview at the time, but maybe I'm wrong. The point is,
you're definitely wrong.
Okay, sure. The point is that we're talking about the downstream effects of the rhetoric of these politicians and how maybe a BLM riot might be like an execution of said rhetoric. So when you're looking and trying to classify BLM as political violence, you'd have to show that this violence is being perpetrated as like an extension of what these people are saying. Like, hey, I'm telling you, you need to go cause harm in this, or you need to go like extend and perpetuate my message. And they're doing the violence to do that. When an overwhelming majority of these riots were just people fucking rioting and looting for no reason, no political ideology, just taking advantage of chaos.
You know, that's a very useful kind of red herring or something like this. But you know, it's not actually demonstrated to me that. These people weren't there on the ground with Antifa terrorists, for instance, domestic terrorists, by the way, who were, and we have video after video after video of them often leading these mobs and inciting them towards violence. So the thing that's really funny.
More explicit there? What do you mean?
Yeah, guys dressed all in black show up. They start breaking windows, setting fires. Suddenly there's mobs all over the place. I know, not a good enough evidence for you, but for most people who are watching the videos, they tend to think, that looks very much like organized terrorist activity. Just saying.
Okay,
Like,
so to be
it
clear,
does.
you don't like our studies that have comprehensive, analysis and methodology, because you might disagree with the methodology, and that's fine. But your evidence that you're going to prevent to me that BLM is politically motivated in a majority is that I saw some videos and they had masks on.
Well, wait a second. Hang on. First of all, you're making a conflationary argument. I didn't make the conflation that, BLM is left wing versus your studies of the right wing. I have a much more comprehensive argument. My argument would be that the left is full of many, many more mentally ill people than the right, and I can give you studies which you would agree show this. They suffer from greater rates of depression, greater rates of overall feelings of unwellness and unhappiness. And when left-wing political primary people, this would be congressmen, senators, people in political leadership, tell these mentally ill individuals in their base that they're dealing with fascists and Nazis who are trying to take away their rights, that actually creates much more of a motivation for that mentally ill base than anything on the right, who seems to be able to discern between funny rhetoric and panic mode like you guys do anytime Trump sneezes.
Would you say that you inflict and ask violence on you and your family by naming yourself Big Papa Fascist?
You mean a debate handle?
Yeah.
A satirical debate handle?
Oh, it's a joke? Okay.
Yeah.
But these people are mentally ill. They can't tell the difference.
You couldn't, hang on. You didn't think that the debate handle Big Papa Fascist was satire? Are you fucking serious? Did you think I really thought I was the biggest papaist of all the fascists? Like,
no,
what the fuck are you talking?
I think you embrace fascism in a lot of ways. You want a Christian nationalist nation.
That's not fascism. You don't know what fascism even is, dude. Give me a break. It doesn't
matter, Andrew, because like you said, you're talking to a bunch of mentally ill left-wing people. Maybe they're not able to discern whether or not it's a joke. They're not so good at humor, and maybe you're inviting violence on you. And
so right-wingers can't do satire, because if they do, left-wingers may be provoked to violence. Great argument, Soy Pill.
No, I'm saying that if you're accusing people of accurately describing right-wingers as fascists when they do fascist things, and that is invoking
what
violence.
Fascist
I would
things?
say calling yourself a fascist is probably also doing that, and I would probably try to distance myself from any and all past names that I had that might invoke violence on me.
I got it. So when the left is calling right-wingers fascist for things like wanting to close off the border and having pro-life positions, that's fascism. You think that
No, I didn't say that.
Oh, okay. Got it. So then that would not be justified use of calling them fascists and Nazis because they have pro-life positions? Would you like example after example after example of various left-wing politicians calling right-wingers fascist, authoritarians, and other because they have pro-life positions?
You don't even need to use the politicians. I mean, we're talking about the politicians, but ultimately I probably agree with those statements. Go ahead, Vince.
I'm curious here. So, Andrew, was your argument earlier then that because the left has predominantly more mentally ill people on their side, that using inflaming rhetoric such as fascist or things of that may invoke some of those people to act upon those impulses because of the fact that they are more mentally ill?
Worse. My argument actually is that the rhetoric specifically is targeted towards that mentally ill base in order to move them towards political action.
Okay.
Not caring about violence at all.
Gotcha. So would you agree, though, because it seems like when you say there's more mentally ill, it does not negate the fact that there is still mentally ill people on the right, correct?
I don't disagree with that. Of course not.
Okay. So then if you have certain
But I would say on the right,
would it not?
Yeah.
Oh.
I would say on the right, well, there's distinctions in the types of mental illness that you're dealing with. On the right, the types of mental illness you're usually dealing with are things like PTSD. We've seen a lot of this. Not necessarily politically oriented. A lot of times that mental illness isn't triggered by politics or political rhetoric. It's triggered by various other things because PTSD can affect people in bizarre ways. Left-wing mental illness is generally feelings of depression, feelings of unwellness, feelings of dissatisfaction, things like this. And a lot of those are actually associated with the political system as being things that make them feel like they have anxiety, make them feel like they're existing in a depressed mode. So I think that these politicians definitely target these people because they're very useful, jobless retards who show up to these protests in Portland and are clearly mentally ill. They're swinging their boobs around. You know, they all have blue hair. They have nose rings all over. Obviously, there's something wrong here with these people. Come
Could
on.
you give like an example, Andrew? Like, I don't know, like Chuck Schumer, I guess is probably called him a fascist, and like how you can demonstrate like this Chuck Schumer, the guy who the left, especially the radical leftists, probably more of the mentally ill ones, will agree on that, to see as a feckless, detriment to their left-wing movement, who, they want to overthrow and install some communists to replace him. This is the guy who is radicalizing people to hurt right-wingers. Like, could you show me like a quote?
Who? Which guy are you
Like
talking
Chuck
about
Schumer,
specifically?
or like Hakeem Jeffries, or like any like political Democrat leader who like you
Oh
truly
yeah,
think
well,
is
what they do,
radicalizing
yeah.
like these far left.
They don't
crazy
just utilize all political pundits. Oh, in fact, when I was going through to get a comprehensive list of political pundits who have called right-wing politicians fascist and Nazis, I almost couldn't find one that didn't. It was like finding the exception. It was actually even what's really funny is like even The Economist do it. Even the left-wing economists are like, Trump's a fascist. It's crazy.
Oh, when he does fascist shit, and they
I mean, come on, man. Like,
and
then he's not a fascist. Bill Clinton. We were just watching his speech the other night, right? He came out with a much more brutal immigration policy than Trump ever had. He sounded like one of these modern right-wing authoritarian fascists.
Bill
And it's
called
like
for mass deportations.
he did.
So do you think?
And to lock down the entire, he called to lock down the entire southern border, and he wanted more isolationism with NAFTA, actually, rather than global trade, which was interesting.
Interesting. Well, still,
So,
hold
Andrew,
on,
would
Vince,
you-
before you ask, I still wanted to answer my question.
Yeah, go ahead.
What politician that's like calling Trump a fascist is inciting these far left people, or far left people are seeing.
Well, it's not
inspiration
just them. So how this works is.
but we're talking about the politicians.
Yeah.
Right? I don't think that.
Well,
you would
actually,
argue that
okay,
you or
well,
I,
sure.
like, with
In
a
fact,
disproportionate
I'll tell you what.
influence,
Just
like-
name a Democrat. Let's play a game. Name the
Okay, Chuck
Democrat.
Schumer.
I'll find the quote. Okay, Chuck
Okay.
Schumer calling Trump or right wingers fascist, right?
Andrew, do you think calling somebody a fascist is a call to violence, or do you think it is inflammatory rhetoric that should be condemned?
I think it depends on the context in which it's used.
Do you think it's good to kill Hitler?
But hang on.
I don't know. Hitler did it, so would you say that Hitler's good?
He's got you there, John.
Yeah, well, I guess so. I mean, on a very.
I'm leaving it open.
I think there's certainly a lot of people who think that is very good to kill Hitler. If Hitler was still around and committing genocide, then that would be a good action to take in order to ensure the safety of the world.
Okay,
And
so
when you have mainstream
I'm sorry.
media,
hang on. I just want to
and people
answer, and because you Soy Pill's being good faith, I'll be good faith back. You are actually correct in one sense that Schumer hasn't directly used the word fascist. He says instead that he's an authoritarian here to take all your rights. It's like,
No, to be
okay.
clear, I wasn't saying
It's like,
that he's never
okay.
said it. I assumed that he had called him a fascist, if anything. I'm asking you, can you demonstrate how Chuck Schumer calling him a fascist is the inspiration for these far left people who hate
Well,
Chuck
it wouldn't
Schumer,
if it
who
was
view
just
him as this-
if it was just Chuck Schumer rather than the political party itself saying things like, let me give you an example, the unison of Trump is a danger to our democracy, calling for his impeachment consistently and constantly. Why is he a threat to democracy? Right now, we have Gavin Newsom, for instance, who's saying that he's going to overstay the election, that his entire purpose is to have a third term. He's coming to take all of your rights. This is a unison party message.
Yeah, and I agree with all of this, by the way. But to be clear, you're saying that this is an explicit call to violence, despite all the people saying that this is an electoral solution that we have.
No, let's untangle the argument because there's multiple stages to it. So step one, that in and of itself would not be considered a call to violence as such. However, what it's trying to do is energize the base towards in the street protest and move them towards the idea that Trump is here to take all of your rights, take everything away from you. He's an authoritarian. He's a fascist. He's a Nazi. He's all of these various things. That then goes down to the governor level, goes down even to the state level, and it goes to the pundits on MSNBC, CNN. They begin to regurgitate the same exact things. And yes, the idea is to motivate these people who have a very mentally ill base to go out and conduct political violence. It does seem to translate that way. Every time I see them out in the street, they seem to be doing violent shit. I don't know what to tell you. 2020, the summer of love, they were out there doing violent shit. The protest we just covered that happened in California, out there doing a bunch of violent shit. The Portland protest that we just covered. Also doing violent shit, fighting in the streets. They were trying to provoke the cops. It's like, what do you want me to do? Every time I look at the street and there's a bunch of leftist protesters, that seems to be accompanied by a bunch of fucking violence and the media saying, it's fine, it's good, it's all good.
My question is, let's just assume for a second that there was a fascist and a bunch of people who were fighting against this fascist had a mentally ill base. Would it then be irresponsible of them to accurately describe their opponent as fascist, because ultimately some of the most mentally ill and fringe people on that base would then go and commit violence that you think is bad? Or how would one deal with that if they truly didn't believe that their opponent was that?
So contextually, right, if it's the case, there's an actual Nazi who's in office, okay, who is trying to bring back the Third Reich, and it just so happens that you're motivating your base against an actual Nazi, and some of them are mentally ill. Yes, of course, there wouldn't be any problem with that. The whole point then would be to overthrow, though, wouldn't it? Wouldn't the whole point of that be? Hang on. Wouldn't the whole point of that be that you're motivating this base against this Nazi to do what? Good things to him? Do you want him to do good things to him? Like, what do you want him to do to him?
If you truly thought that there was no possible way for you to do this through the system, then yeah, why would you be out there getting people to canvass? Why would you be out there telling people, go register to vote? Why would you do anything other than, hey, we need to mobilize our little infiltration?
Hang on, here's the thing. It's really funny. It's like, yes, there's one branch that does that, and then there's other branches which seem to motivate people to shoot political commentators, take shots at the president of the United States, beat people in the streets, set cars on fire, set buildings on fire, and are very unapologetic about it, and are continuing to organize yet another No King's Day nationally to do even more of this shit. So the thing is like, again, I'm going to throw this back to you because I answered in good faith. Yes, of course you would motivate your population, but motivate them to do what? You're not going to be motivating them to do good things to the Nazi in charge, are you?
Well,
let him answer. Let him answer, dude.
This is something that I agree with most of the politicians in the way that they're classifying Trump as a fascist. I think Nazi is obviously too far. He's not that, but calling him.
They're not going to do good things to the fascists, right?
And I'm saying, look, guys, if I thought this was a non-electoral solution, there was no electoral solution here, that you had absolutely no other option, kind of like what Trump did in January 6th and saying, hey, your country failed you, Mike Pence failed you. I would say, yeah, maybe we should go do a violence, but obviously I don't think we're there yet. I wouldn't be having this debate if I thought the only option was violence. So when we look at like the BLM stuff, and we look at the way the Democratic politicians, whether it's Newsom, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and say things like, I mean, I have a quote here. He says, there's no place for violence. There's no place for looting or destroying property or burning churches or destroying businesses, et cetera, constantly condemning this. I don't understand how you can say, well, by accurately describing this person the way that they believe him to be, and then saying also don't commit violence, we can win this electorally. This is somehow necessarily going to result in violence only because there are, I guess, a disproportionate amount of mentally ill people on the left wing. It doesn't particularly make sense.
I'm sorry. Aren't you a person who believes in the idea of dog whistles?
Yeah, but it's not a dog whistle.
Okay, so hang on. So,
I think
you obviously politicians aren't going to come out directly and go, "Hey guys, you need to start killing right-wing politicians, and you need to start killing like, right-wing political commentators."
Priest,
yeah,
right?
they would say things instead like, "This person is trying to, I don't know,
like hell." I mean,
they're trying. Hang on. I'll engage with you. Let me finish the point.
I'm
almost done. Almost done, bro. Almost done. So, like, saying things like, Donald Trump is trying to mobilize the military so that he can declare martial law and exist for a third term. Yeah, that's not really in the domain, I think, anymore of like, we're just trying to motivate our political base to get out there and get charged to vote him out. How do you vote a person out who you're claiming is trying to stay for an additional term by using the military? How do you do that? You don't do it. So the whole point is, yes, I think that there's a bit of dog whistling going on there of, hey, he's an authoritarian fascist who's trying to overstay his welcome in the Oval Office, and he's prepared to use the military to put you down. So we need to really get these guys because they're a bunch of fascist Nazis. That's very much what the call is right now.
Yeah,
yes.
I think if they said that was the only thing that's going to happen, I think saying he may try is much different. But I would agree that if they said Donald Trump will definitely 100% do this, and he's not going to leave office, he's going to use the military to crack down, I would say
that's what Newsom's saying.
No, he's not saying that's exactly
No, he's not.
definitely. He's saying there's a good
Oh,
chance.
come
it'll happen.
on,
And
man.
The difference being that there's a
I'm
lot of avenues-
87.5% sure that he's a
Can I
Nazi who's
please-
trying to take power.
Can I please respond? So the difference being that there's all these other avenues that we've explored that Trump is also trying to explore that
man.
may not involve the military, such as changing the 22nd Amendment or running as vice president and then having J.D. Vance step down. He's talking about all sorts of other avenues, and it's like, okay, there's definitely this guy has demonstrated in the past that he does not want to leave office. He tried to, use false electors to stay for a third term, but we still defeated them electorally in that because the guardrails held, thank God. So saying that, oh, well, if this was the only option, maybe that could be potentially a dog whistle, but clearly all of these Democratic politicians are not operating under the assumption that violence is the only option.
So I mean, what level of surety you would actually need Gavin Newsom to be like, hey, everybody, I'm 100% sure this Nazi's trying to overstay his stay in the Oval Office and use the military right now to suppress people. So what? What does he have to say to convince you that he means what he's saying?
I think if you
Can you
continue
provide
to
an
see
actual
left-wing
quote that
violence
you are
perpetuated
using?
against
I can
right-wingers
provide an
and
entire
left-wing-
video clip of
left-wing
this.
Democrat politicians refuse to condemn it and say, you know what, maybe this should happen more. I think that would be more of an indication of, they want more of this to happen. But at every single step, at every opportunity, they condemn this violence over and over.
Yeah,
and
meanwhile,
over
all the
again. It's nothing like
influencers
they
are
want to keep happening.
dancing after Charlie Kirk dies. We go to TikTok for the
but notice
follow.
how you keep
We go
having
to
deflect with
TikTok.
the influencers and
Well,
not talk about the
how-
actual politicians. and their
hang on
ideology
a
and their
second.
rhetoric.
Hang on a second.
Those are
Didn't I
pivot.
just tell you that this is a tiered system? I walked you through the
Yeah,
entire
I
argument,
hold-
and
I
you
hold- I
said,
hold
and
very
Soy, hang
low
on, Soy,
tier,
Soy,
much
you said,
much
you said,
lower
Soy,
regard.
I largely agree with your assessment there. Those were your exact
I do
words.
largely agree, but again, when I bring
So I
up
don't know
the
what to
fact
tell
that
you.
left-wing politicians are
Uh-huh.
overwhelmingly condemning this, and you say, well, these influencers with a much lower reach
Mhm.
aren't, and it's like, okay, well, are you going to address the fact that we're already talking about the inequality between the left and right?
Oh my God! Politicians are speaking out of both sides of their mouth. That's so crazy
Can you
that a
show me- can you show
politician
me-
that a
can you show me
politician
the
on the one
left-wing
hand says
politicians?
I
Guys, let's
condemn
speak over each other.
I
Hold on,
condemn the
Andrew.
violence, but on the other hand, they go, oh, but wait a second, we're going to give you a place inside of this major metropolitan area to fucking riot. Oh, but we condemn the violence. It's like, what are you fucking talking about here, Soy?
Yeah, so you're setting up the idea that left-wing politicians giving permits and spaces for people to protest, which may turn violent at some point, is the same as them.
They
somehow,
let 'em take-
advocating and perpetuating
Andrew,
people shooting
finish.
politicians and pundits and shit. which
They
is
let
just
him take
completely
over an
Andrew, let's go
entire
finish.
spot.
Andrew,
He
let's
was
go
finished.
finish.
He was finished. You fucking idiot! Shut up.
I
Now,
was-
by the way,
He was-
Soy,
Okay.
Soy, yeah. Did you see that? You see how I was right, doing everything wrong, right, and you're a dumb
Calm
mob.
down, he's the
So anyway,
moderator.
back
He's
to this, Soy. For you, just so that you understand, right? They took over an entire area of a city and called it Chaz Chop, said it was a neutral zone, declared it independent of the United States of America, and then had armed people. Hang on, and then hang on. Let me finish. Let me finish. Yes, not only was it downstream of that, but it was very clear that the politicians who were in charge of said city weren't going to do a fucking thing about it, while at the same time they were condemning violence. It's like, give me a fucking break with this shit.
Can you like?
Oh, wait, so it's
if I were to
interesting.
go
Wait,
and ask some
Andrew.
of these like Chaz people, like who
give
inspired them to do their Chazing? Do you think it would be like a Hakeem Jeffries, a Chuck Schumer, a Joe Biden, the radical Democrat left that inspired them to make a little stupid fucking square of a city and have a lawless zone, which was then cracked down on? Like, it's just ridiculous.
Cracked down on after how many weeks?
The left wing politicians. Now you might say that there are some left wing governors or like super ultra progressive, attorney generals in like maybe like Portland or places like this that might actually agree with some of these crazy Antifa.
They don't
like,
just agree with
radicals,
them. They seem to be very assisting towards them.
yeah, sure. Maybe even so, but the point is,
Like,
we're talking
in Portland,
about,
for
as a
instance-
totality of these parties, this
Yeah.
is not something that like Antifa is not aligned with the Democrats.
Yeah,
So
the
far
thing
left
is,
not aligned with these people.
There's a very strong ideological backing for
course.
Antifa and BLM in the Democrats. The Democrats champion the Black Lives Matter movement. What are you talking about? Like this is why
You notice how you just jumped to the BLM thing, which is not what I'm talking about. I was talking about Antifa.
he said,
Of course,
well,
of course,
he literally
the
just said
Democrats-
BLM was
I've-
highly ideologically driven by the left. What do you
I
mean
agree
he's not talking
completely, and
about BLM?
I wasn't talking
What?
about that. But if you look at BLM and the way that the left-wing Democrat politicians were responding to it, completely condemning all of this violence, saying rioting is completely unacceptable. And
Bring
is
to
that
me
why
another
Kamala
drink.
Harris promoted the
Bring to me
Minnesota
another
Freedom
drink.
Fund to bail out the violent rioters? Like, I mean, come on.
I think that's the closest
are you
thing you can
serious?
get to maybe she's advocating for violence, or maybe like a Maxine
Maybe.
Waters saying you need to go get up in their faces. But then when you compare it to the totality of statements where she's saying violence is not okay, but maybe we should help.
How many of these left-wing organizations? How many of these left-wing organizations who are filled to the brim with attorneys back up all sorts of projects which are designed to bail out protesters, quote protesters, when they get cracked down on because they're breaking the law in the streets? And they pay their bail funds. NGOs will back up many of these organizations. I pointed this out in my last debate with Vince. I have a massive list of NGOs, which we can go through, who organized the No King's Day riots, and they were riots, and there were riots before those days. So the thing is like, I can show you the NGOs who helped organize this, and it's like to pretend that these people aren't working in unison with each other and aren't pushing towards violence. I think it's just crazy at this point. By the way,
hey, Andrew,
another hang on, almost done. Another narrative.
I've been hanging on for 30
another
minutes,
narrative.
So
well, hang on for one more minute. Hang on for one more minute. So the thing is like, it was also you guys, remember, and your side largely, that was trying to distance yourself from violence by pinning it on a right-wing raper after Charlie Kirk was shot. Almost the entire narrative of the influencer left and the legacy media, which is left-wing, was trying to do this. And they've done everything possible, in fact, to say, nope, we didn't do it. It had nothing to do with our rhetoric. And then less than a week later, right? Oh, go to Twitter right now. Right. Charlie Kirk's a fascist Nazi. He's a fascist Nazi.
To be clear, because I've never said that. If anything, I thought the Groiper thing was jumping the gun, to be clear. But Vince, go ahead.
Yeah. Andrew, how many people were arrested during the Los Angeles protests?
Which one?
The one from the summer in June of 2025.
I'm not sure the numbers.
Anti-ICE riots.
Yeah, I'm not sure the numbers.
It was over 400 arrests.
Mm-hmm.
So again, and when we pair that with Gavin Newsom's sentiment of, hey, we need you to peacefully protest, it doesn't seem like he's enabling it. It seems like he's actually, in fact, several people were arrested for felony charges like assault against police officers and for possessions of Molotov cocktails and a gun. Mm-hmm. So again, if this was, Gavin Newsom dog whistling, I would imagine we would expect far less arrests. And I remember actually in our previous debate where you said the cops were just standing around
and then showed video proof
of where they were not.
Yeah, they were.
They were not just standing around. And evidently they weren't, because
not only were they, but we
people.
showed the video and demonstrated it, and you look like an idiot because we showed it.
Yeah. So
we showed it.
You acknowledge that there were 400 arrests that were made by Los Angeles PD due to those protests, right?
Sure.
Okay, so then it wasn't that Gavin Newsom was standing down or allowing this to happen. It seems like they were very adamant in trying to make sure that those who were not peacefully protesting were being held accountable. Like Donald Trump, who ended up pardoning those who actually committed crimes.
Here's how this tended to work during those protests. If you actually assaulted officers or gave them a hard time, they would arrest your ass. That's true. Okay, but they largely were standing around and watching everybody burn shit to the fucking ground, including what happened in the overpasses there. As you saw police on either side with paramedics on standby in case one of these protesters might have accidentally hurt themselves, lobbing a fucking rock over onto a police car that they had just set on fire. They wanted to make sure that those guys would get the help that they fucking needed. But the thing is, what's really funny about it, if you attack the cops directly, they don't put up with that shit. That's true. That's true.
I think we need to be there's a lot of discussion that's very beyond the scope that I'm seeing from our opponents here, because we need to be very clear. The left makes a climate that allows this type of violence to be highly associated with them ideologically. For instance, we have a whole bunch of factions of the left that have risen up. I can name countless examples. You just gave an example, the anti-ICE rights. That's very ideologically fundamental to the left right now. We have the BLM movements that was very ideologically backed by the left as well. We have the pro-Palestine faction of the left, which the left constantly has to cater to and has caused countless of damages on college campuses. Yeah, pro-life journalists going and interviewing people and getting punched in the face. And you have our presidents being shot at, and you have our influencers dead. So it's you need to have a very strong conviction to show that the party is very responsible by their ideological backing and their influence. And when you see bullets etched with Antifa slogans that are largely perpetuated by Democrats who are calling Charlie Kirk fascist, I think it is very clear what is going on here. There's a great unison with these politically violent actions and the party. Ideologically backed political ideologies from the party.
Let's give the kid a chance.
Highly associated with these acts.
John,
We
I
could
guess
talk
I have to
about-
ask if you were to like, sorry, Vince, I'll let you go because I know I've been talking a lot. But like, if you were to like ask
No,
like
you-
an Antifa like rioter, one of these violent people, like, why do you think Charlie Kirk is a fascist? Do you think a single one of them would say it's because Joe Biden said so? It's because Gavin Newsom said so? It's because, and not these people are radicalized in their like little Marxist communist circles, and they read. I mean, you go to UC Berkeley, you should know this of all people because I know the people at UC Berkeley. They are learning this in like their little like hippie circles. This is not coming down from like Democrat politicians. Absolutely no one is being inspired by the Kamala Harris rhetoric on ICE.
Who
Like,
does
this
it
is
come
so
down to
ridiculous.
is in charge of these hippie circles?
Hmm?
How do
Who's in
they?
charge of them?
How do the people in charge of those hippie circles? How does that information get disseminated to them? Do you
Well,
think?
this is going to get super anecdotal for me, but when I encounter these people, it's all people that talk about theory and reading communist manifestos and stuff. But if you want to say that this is somehow perpetuated by left-wing politicians, I don't really see evidence for that. But
Wait a
that's
second.
my
I'm just
view.
following. I'm just following your line. These people they do have organizers. You agree that that's true?
Well, not
Where-
really Antifa, but you know.
Yeah, they really do. In fact, I can give you one of the organizers who ran a project, which is probably where you get a lot of your stats from. And he said on camera, and I have a clip here, he literally says that he's Antifa and that Antifa does organize. So I don't know where you guys are
Antifa
coming up with
organizers,
that.
I really hate the like Joe Biden, like it's just an idea, because I think that is a deflection. I mean, obviously they're groups of people and they have like a symbol that like unites them, but ultimately it's not some like big top-down organization with like it's the head of Antifa. It's you get these little pockets of people that all kind of agree, read similar stuff, and decide to go go to the Ben
These
Shapiro
think the
protest.
same-
exactly.
the same
the
thing-
universities
Go
here,
ahead.
the universities are a hub for this type of ideological backing from people. Where sure, the Marxists come together at universities, which is completely dominated by the left. So that is like another form of mainstream left-wing politics that is going into the educational system and is influencing people to become radicalized. And so it's like, if I asked an Antifa, like, why did you shoot Charlie Kirk? The answer is
I
probably
love
not gonna
talking
be
shit to this
because Joe
mod,
Biden
too.
told me so.
It's one of my favorites.
But when you take a look at
You're
the
like, shut up,
climate that has
mod.
been
You
created
suck,
by the
mod.
left,
Shut your
it has
fucking
made it
mouth,
such
mod.
that you are predisposed
I just
to
like doing
believe
that.
Charlie Kirk is a fascist, to believe that all these people on the right really want to cause you harm, are threats to democracy, are Nazis, are Hitler, to the point where you are going to take actions because you are convinced by the social constructivist narratives that the left constantly perpetuates, and you think that when you commit an action in the name of social justice, that it is a good action, no matter what law you're violating, no matter what you're doing, so you can choose what laws to obey because it is in the name of some arbitrary social justice. All of this is under the umbrella of the left wing, who has created these ideologicals, these influences that have very predisposed people to commit these acts.
I guess the problem
can
I'm
I-
having is this like completely asymmetrical analysis where we can look at the left and say, yes, they condemn it totally. Yes, they arrest and punish these people. And yes, they say absolutely nothing that would indicate that doing this is okay. But when the right wing calls people fascists or Marxists or any of these other things and commits political terrorism, that is a direct downstream of
It's
the
because of
policy of
PTSD.
the right
It's
wing.
PTSD.
It's
What
fringe. It's right wing.
Gee, what are they arresting all these people for? Are they arresting them for political violence, Soy?
There's
What are they
we're
arresting them all
getting
for?
We're getting way out of the
Right,
framework
because
of
they
the debate
don't
here.
want it to
Remember,
happen.
Because well, they're
Articles-
all right, so
people
you're
doing
saying
it.
that a bunch of left wingers are conducting a bunch of violence and have to be arrested? Is that what you're saying, Zoe?
I'm saying that yes, that
Oh,
left
yes.
do political violence. I
Yes,
would
they
never
sure
arrest them.
do,
That
and they
doesn't happen.
and would you say that that's been kind of an ongoing theme here recently? And I mean, he just said 400 of them had to be arrested for conducting violence in California recently.
Not
No.
necessarily correct.
And what I
That's not-
remember,
all right,
too-
hold
Oh
on.
no! I
Hold
thought
on,
you just
wait,
said that
wait, wait, hold
they're
on.
cracking down on this
Hold on.
behavior.
I can explain.
Okay, I can't wait. I think we
Nearly
lost Vince.
400 arrests.
Up a little bit.
Oh,
I
can
think
you
we
hear me
lost
back?
Vince.
Oh, yep.
Hold on,
We
can
can
you
hear
hear me?
All right. Yep.
Okay.
You're good.
So it said the vast majority of arrests have been for failing to leave the area in defiance of requests from law enforcement. So essentially staying out, and they're telling them to move and they didn't move and they got arrested. The other ones were more serious charges, and it was a handful, not a whole lot of them, but it was a handful of more serious charges, including for assault against police officers and then possession of a Molotov and cocktail. So again, when we
violence.
talk about, but the thing that's really
Just the
rich, like
vast
Soy Pill
majority for
said,
not leaving an area, so no, not
the
violence.
the rest,
No, he
the
just
wild thing about
cited
this-
violence.
Guys, let Vince finish. Let
Yeah,
Vince
the
finish.
wild thing about this to me is it's exactly like Soy Pill said. Y'all are providing numerous examples of the left, and that's fair, fine. Let me just provide a few here, because we had the 2024 election that happened last year, and there were numerous calls made into certain election and polling places. We also saw 2025 where the CDC shooter was all upset about the COVID-19 shot that he had gotten, and he didn't like. He thought he was melting his brain or whatever it was.
So
We also had the 2022 Buffalo. See, and that's right there, exactly what I said in my opening statement. I'm glad you mentioned that, Andrew, because I believe in my opening statement I said when it's the left will openly condemn that violence. They say, hey, there's no place in there. When there was a protest, they'll say, hey, there's no place for this violence. But when the right does it, they then say, hey, guess what? It's because of mental illness, which is what I said, or they'll say it's because of PTSD, but they'll never own their rhetoric.
That's
that
really
may have led up to that.
Wait. That's
COVID-19
really
and anti.
Oh, you just cut out again.
Oh,
Sorry, man.
we lost Vince again. All right, well,
That's
Andrew-
God.
I-
That's
I-
God
I-
smiting you
I-
for lying, by the way. But anyway, so where were we? Go ahead.
So what I'm saying is that we can point to certain rhetoric that may have led these mentally deranged people on the right go towards these particular acts.
Mhm.
We talked about, for example, that one person who talked about the COVID-19 shot. We've seen with the Buffalo shooter, for example,
Sure.
had anti-immigration sentiment, and we could talk about all that. And whereas on the left, we'll sit here when we have someone that does these things, condemn those particular violent actors. But on the right, they immediately, for example, we just saw the Mormon incident where the guy drove the truck through the church. And what was the first thing that everybody said? Instead of saying, hey, maybe our rhetoric is pretty bad, they go, hey, he's suffering from PTSD. It's not our rhetoric. Our rhetoric has nothing to do with
said
it.
was Christianity is under attack, and this is the left wing doing this. Then they said, once they realized it was a MAGA guy, that it was not.
Oh, well,
Exactly.
the thing is that my understanding is that the entire Mormon thing happened because of a girl that he was interested in, and they broke up. And yes, the guy was crazy. And so this is the thing that's really funny. So I'll just be very unequivocal with this, just like I was with Destiny. I condemn all acts of political violence, right or left, period. Am I saying that there's never any such thing as incendiary rhetoric which comes out of the right? Of course not. Am I saying that there's no such thing as people who say things which could trigger people to go do violent acts? Of course not. Am I even saying that there's a way to 100% avoid that and have speech? Of course not. Has nothing at all to do with this conversation about which side is doing this more. And so as we dive into this, we need to be very precise. Remember how I wanted to get these semantics in order, and you never want to fucking do that because you think it's a trap. You think it's a trick, even though even though I keep trying to just tell you it's a great way to avoid equivocation. And Vince, if you do it more, we wouldn't have to run into this so much. So the thing is here that's interesting, I'm willing to go case by case. It could be the case.
Except for Darryl Brooks.
It could be the case. I told you I was willing to go into that case as well. I was just explaining to you that I was making comparison contrast there about why it would be important for us to utilize studies the correct way by making correct classifications we could agree to. Again, semantics, very simple. The thing that's really interesting here is like, if you give me a case and it's very clear that this was motivated by the right, and there's compelling, significant evidence that it was, my side always universally condemns that, by the way. And Charlie Kirk universally condemned that, by the way. We always condemn it. We're always saying, I was the one on the Pierce Morgan panel saying, of course, I condemn this type of violence. It was the representation for your side, the Coomer gremlin, who just couldn't quite bring himself to say, probably wasn't a great idea that you took a shot at Trump and killed Charlie Kirk. It was him. So the thing is we can't, hang on.
But we're talking about our politicians.
Yeah,
and,
we can't.
You really
well,
like to pivot on
you
this
keep
one.
you keep switching though. You keep switching between the two.
Sorry, let him
You're doing kind of like the worst form of equivocation because we start with me saying this works from the top down and you agree. So you've already agreed with me semantically that this is the case.
Pundits are way lower on that hierarchy.
What would that have to do with the left or the right conducting more violence? Why would it need to be necessary that this is driven 100% by the top of the hierarchy rather than it could be conducted by Antifa terror cells? It could be conducted by radicalization on side of college campuses. It could be conducted in all sorts of Discord groups, Telegram groups. It doesn't necessarily have to come from the top down. I don't think that the top-down rhetoric helps.
For it, then we need to look at one.
We're not just talking about that though. We're talking about who conducts more of it.
Right. So if we want to talk about who conducts more of it, and we really want to read through the CSIS study, and we can talk about it, there's a reason why Like we can, but like it's going to be real boring. And the problem is at the end of it, you're either going to say, well, I don't agree with the methodology, and then not provide an alternative methodology that somehow parses through the numbers that you're satisfied with. And it's ultimately not going to get us anywhere because you're
That's
never
not,
gonna
wait,
say,
wait,
well,
wait.
the right
That
does it
is
more.
not how science works, Soy. Science does not work where you say, I have an experiment or some type of data collection here which is easily falsifiable and you have to replace it. That's not how that works. I don't need to give you alternatives to things that are bullshit. I don't need to.
I can name a bunch of things and look at these videos. And when I say a study, you can poke holes in it.
You remember how earlier you said that the study
You
is
have
not
to give me either
necessary
a
for the
better study with
demonstration?
better methodology, or go through and parse through the cases used in this study and say, this is how they all are classified under my methodology and how then the numbers would add up, and then show me that new graph. But if you can do neither of those things, I'm going to choose to actually use the study.
Okay, well, let's use your own study. Okay, to make a demonstration. Since Trump was since Trump was reelected, this is according to Cato, the left has killed. It is. Shut up and let me finish. It is. Dude. If you shut up, I'll show you.
Andrew.
The left has killed 2 times as many people, according to the CSIS. The one that you're referencing, the left-wing terrorism is at its worst in 30 years. According to the CSIS.
Are you talking about the little bar at the end where the left-wing terrorism has gone up by a little compared to the previous year, and then the right-wing bar
He's cherry picking.
He's
cherry picking.
You're looking at the very last year that's not complete. Is that how we're going to?
I just told you that according to Cato, the left's killed 2 times as many since Trump's election.
In the year since Trump's election, so you're only going to selectively look at 8 months, just to be clear. So to be clear, if your argument
when
is
the violence has, you mean when the violence has exploded?
7 months exclusively, and we only look at that. Sure. Okay.
Okay. Hang on. Wait a second. Wait a second. When was it that the left became completely mobilized towards violence? Was it under fucking Biden or was it under somebody else? Soy? Who else? Who? Oh, yeah, like you mean under Trump when they did mass protests before against Trump, and now we see the cycle repeating again under Trump. The most critical term of showing this.
Only able to look at the. You're like, okay, I'll use the stats, but only if I can pick out this very last bar of this last year, which I'll agree with. I'm saying, yeah, actually, this is true. I'm not contesting this study. I'm agreeing. The left is more violent in 2025, according to the study, in the very last year. Now, if we're talking about that, I don't know which debate you signed up for, but I signed up for as a totality.
Okay, hang on.
This is graph.
This is perfect. Actually, this is perfect. This is perfect.
It's pretty funny to look at this and say, "Oh, yep, this is definitely a left-wing."
This is perfect.
And this
so hang on. Let us finish our exchange. Are you saying? Dude,
this is the funny thing.
This fucker will never let us finish an exchange. Go ahead, Vince. I'm sure whatever you're about to say is important. Go ahead.
Yeah, here we go. So now that you're hearing me. So the issue here is that you're pointing to this, but I remember when Trump was in office the first time, and we do have.
I don't know. I can't even understand the guy. So anyway, back to you, Soy Pill.
I'm sorry. My internet's garbage.
It is garbage. You know what? I'm gonna hang on, Vince. I can actually help you with this. If you have mobile hotspot, turn your mobile hotspot on and shut off your internet.
Turn that on.
Yeah, turn your mobile hotspot on. So anyway, back to this, Soy Pill. Actually, now we're getting somewhere. So this is actually great. So you made the concession. You agree. Left-wing violence under Trump.
It's an agreement of objective reality.
Again.
So by the way, for the past
am I allowed to fucking talk?
But now that you're looking at the last year, you're like, yep, it's true. So no, it's not.
Okay. So anyway, I'll try to finish the point because you know you're about to get fucked here. So thing is on the CSIS, if you make the concession that it is the case that under Trump, left-wing violence is much higher, killed 2 times as many people. You agree with all of this. You're making the concession there. The thing that's really funny is this is why I want to go through the methodology. Because if you make the concession that the left is far more violent right now, and I agree with you, all that's left is whether or not the left has been violent this entire time, which is why we need to go through the methodology of the rest of the study. You see how that works? Because if I can demonstrate in the rest of the study, you're classifying things wrong, but we can agree the left is more violent now, we've won the fucking debate, Soy.
To be clear, no, because the debate is not. Is the left wing more violent in the current year? Is the who's more responsible?
Can you even repeat back what I just said to you?
Second of all,
can you even repeat back what I just said?
You want to start on the axiom that we can concede that both of us agreed with this study for this one particular year, but then we have to go back and meticulously pick it apart for all the other years. No, absolutely not.
Why not?
You're either accepting of the study or you're
not. What? Wait, what? I'm either accepting of the study or not.
If you agree with this study's methodology, then okay, I accept that you agree with this methodology, and then we can look and see that the right wing is overwhelmingly responsible for political violence as a whole for most of human history, or not human history.
What?
But no, yeah. Excuse me. That was
So let me get it. Hang on.
the history of the study.
Yeah,
No,
hang
don't
on.
mean-
Yeah, I understand. I'm not going to be a pedant, but let me just help me out here. If I had a study that said,
and then go through the
yeah, so if I had
methodology.
if I had a study and the study said that 100% of people who eat dog shit don't like how it tastes, right?
Mm-hmm.
But 20% of white people or black people like how it tastes more than Mexican people. Can we agree that both of us could look at the methodology of that study and agree 100% of people don't like eating dog shit? We've now agreed. But we could have great differences on the methodology for how we came to that 20% number. Do you agree that that's true?
I agree that that's true.
Okay,
yes.
so
But
then hang
why are you
on,
saying there's
bro.
concession
I'm
in the
trying to
last year if
explain.
you don't necessarily agree with methodology?
Trying to explain. So when we go through the methodology of the classification, my concern there would be actually that it's discounted and it's even higher than they're claiming. But I'm willing to concede the point even on the CSIS on the end. If you are, we can go through the classifications for all of these other years. And boy, if it turns out that they're not classifying these things correctly, then we can do some type of rough calculation to see which one of us is, or which side is actually conducting the most amount of political violence. And if it's the case in modernity, yeah, go ahead.
Last year, because it is a methodology you agree with, because any of the things that are demonstrated are true, it just happens to show that you're right. So if it showed the opposite, you would immediately discredit it. So why even call it a
What are you talking about? That has nothing to do with what I just said. Can you repeat back to me?
Can
you repeat back to me my position?
You said I can concede on this point, but I actually think it's wrong. It just happened to be right in the correct way that I already agreed with.
So then let's go through the study.
So why even bother pointing out that last year whatsoever?
Wait, didn't I give you a qualifier? What was my qualifier? That I actually think that left-wing violence, even this year classified, is higher. But I would be willing to concede the point at least that in this year it's higher if you do. But we do need to go through the rest of it for the purpose of classification to make a determination if you agree with these classifications. Both of you are unwilling to do it because you don't believe the classifications. You don't believe them.
No, let's go. All right, we can do it, but I promise you by the end of this, you're going to say, well, because the classifications aren't the way I would do it, and I haven't done a comprehensive
I want to make sure that the classifications are how you would do it.
What I believe is true. Therefore, I discredit this study. I have no other option to show that the left wing is more violent. I just feel it's true because I've seen more of it, and that's the end of the debate. Like, it's going to be a huge waste of time, but let's do it. Let's go through it.
Yeah, and I want to mention this too, Soy Pill, before we jump into this. Andrew, in his opening statement, said all the claims will hinge on studies. Soy Pill will likely tell you the truth. And then and he'll bring up all these studies. He's saying all the claims will hinge on the studies. He's dragging us into talk about these particular studies.
The things that your arguments hinge on? The things that your argument hinge on.
So the only person here that wants to talk about these studies is Andrew.
The only person here who wants to talk about your evidence is Andrew. That's crazy. It's almost like we're in a debate. It's almost like we're in a debate or something, Vince.
The whole study and then get to the part where Andrew says, "Never mind, I don't like it," because I think it's going to be boring.
No,
but yeah, we
okay. Well, let's just try it this way. If you don't want to go through it, maybe we can just try it this way. Soy, would you agree with me? Would you agree with me that there's going to be problems in the methodology of classification that you likely aren't going to agree with in that study? Yes or no?
I think every study is going to have at least something that I would say, I'm not sure about that, but I would still use it as an aggregate and showing what is happening, unless there was something major. For example,
why would you do that? That's insane.
Listen, Andrew, because I want to give you this. This is a concession, all right? If this study, and this doesn't do this, but if this study said right-wing violence includes something like Wahhabist Islamic terror attacks, even though that I would acknowledge why they might say that, because it's like, oh, well, because you can classify this as right.
I bet you it does, actually. I bet you it does include Muslim terror attacks. I bet you anything.
It actually has an entire other classification for this, if you read it, that is religious extremism that is not left or right, and there's a good reason for that.
Except in that case.
All 3,000 people that died
except in that CS
right-wing violence. That would be ridiculous.
Actually, I believe in the CSIS, the way that they come up with right-wing affiliation is through religion. Just so you know,
there are parts of religious extremism that can be classified in the study if you read it, but not just.
Let's go through.
Extremism,
yeah, well, this is why. But this is here's the
Christian nationalist terrorist attack, like with Dylan Roof, would be a right-wing extremist, but the fucking 9/11 attacks wouldn't be, and that's why I'm saying if there was a methodology that extreme that said, yep, right-wing includes 9/11, yeah, I would say that's an incredibly flawed study that we can't take seriously. I don't think that exists in here, but if you want to point,
have you read it? Have you read that study? The Truth.
Yes, I haven't read it word for word, but I have.
And what does that mean, though? Like, how much of it have you read? How much? The truth.
Well, it's like 10 pages. So I read, like,
Come on, dude. Like, here's the thing, man. It's like, this is where the disconnect is. How are we supposed to even have a good faith debate over which side is conducting the most amount of violence if it's the case that the thing which you're banking on, which is evidence from these organizations, you haven't even read the very studies that you're banking on to show your position?
About it were the methodology, how they classified the different types of violence, and specifically looked out for major egregious
You should
things.
bitch about it. You haven't read it. You haven't read it.
The one I just mentioned. Those are the things I did read through. Something I didn't read through would
wait,
be, for
not in
example,
10 pages. You didn't. You lying sack of shit. You didn't read through it in 10 pages. You read through the methodology in 10 pages.
What?
You just said you read through the methodology in 10 fucking pages, dude. Give me a fucking break.
The entire thing is 10 pages. I'm not. If there's a more in-depth version of this study, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the domestic terrorism brief that has been released that describes the methodology, the classifications, that shows the graphs.
Link it over. Let's take a look at it.
This is my problem with debates like these where you introduce a study and you use that as your key point of evidence, because we really haven't seen many evidence coming from our opponents other than this study. And all this study shows is look at this number. Look at this number here. And I'm almost finished with my point. Look at this number here. Oh, look, my study shows this number. Let's not look into the number. The number is just what it says. And no matter what the classifications are, the methodology, no matter what the situation is. Well, okay, so here's my proposition. When we're analyzing which party is more responsible, we have to see the ideological backing and the influence that the party has had over the actions and mental states that cause these people to commit these violent acts. And we should also look at the impact that they have had. And when you look throughout history, modern history, the largest scope and scale of political violence has occurred from the left. Your presidents aren't being shot at. Your influencers aren't being shot at. You don't have conservative college campuses that are throwing riots and protests.
By your own metrics, anti-Biden point to these people that tried to shoot Trump as having downstream messages disseminated by Democratic politicians, for example, Thomas Crooks, which I still don't know if we've
donated to Act Blue. He donated to Act Blue.
Did he not also?
Where did that show the rhetoric?
Party and or vote for them? Can you show that the rhetoric is contributing to this? He also had plans to shoot Joe Biden. I don't know if you knew about that, but the whole point is
so I can tell you the Charlie Kirk assassin etched in.
Well, hold on. Do you see? Okay, you just moved off the point completely, John. Please, answer the question. Because
I think when you donate to Act Blue, that's a very
the ideology is influencing this. But if you're going to point to something like, hey, our presidents got shot at, it's like, okay, how is this happening? For example, if it was a Ukrainian person, I think there's someone pro-Ukrainian person was the one waiting for him on the golf course. I think there's a much closer connection that you could draw there showing, hey, Trump doesn't care about Ukraine. He's a Russian puppet, blah, blah, blah. You could make a good argument there. But the Thomas Crooks one, I just don't see how that is somehow coming down.
The argument is based off of the existence of the shootings rather than the non-existence of the shootings on the left. We have our people who are being shot and killed. He also had plans to shoot Joe Biden. So by that same logic, you could say that, okay. Yeah, your people aren't being shot and killed. You have all these slogans that are etched into the bullet that killed Charlie Kirk. You have Destiny, who's not condemning the killing of Charlie Kirk. You have the guy who donated to Act Blue, who shot Donald Trump. I don't see Joe Biden being shot at. I don't see Kamala Harris being shot at.
Ignoring that guy that you were talking about who tried to shoot Donald Trump and missed and died was also planning to shoot Joe Biden. If you're going to keep bringing up that example, but again, if you're going to keep bringing up these,
this is fucking crazy, dude.
This even falls into specifically. I don't know if these three things, by the way, were especially not the ones that didn't happen this year, but the ones that happened this year, as per this study, if they're classified as left-wing violence, are included and are showing that there is more left-wing death this year specifically. That's just true. That's based on this study. So if you want to stop there for some reason, yeah, okay, we can just talk about 2025. But ultimately, we're looking at the totality, and you claim
we don't want to just stop there.
It's because of the Nazism, and yet all these people were calling Trump Hitler fascist back in 2016. J.D. Vance was even doing it, and somehow this wasn't happening nearly to the same degree, and the right wing was much, much higher in those years. Why is this somehow now different in this year?
The protests were very violent.
Because you spent 4 years under Joe Biden saying that you had thwarted a threat to democracy and ousted a Nazi from office, and now he sees power. Now he sees power again, right? Now he sees power.
You're very much missing the point of my statement. The point of my statement was to look at the scale and scope and impact of the things. The right has suffered more significant losses, damages, and impact that has been perpetuated by those with close ties to the left. And so, I didn't just cite the shootings of Donald Trump and Charlie Kirk. That's why I also cited the riots, which again caused over $2 billion of damages You had
Which,
dozens of
again,
people
can't
killed. You
connect
have
necessarily to
officers
the
who are
ideology
damaged.
because you'd have to show that every
Black
single one
Lives
of those
Matter was
dollars
not
that were
fundamental
calculated and
to
damaged
liberal
are directly
ideology.
tied to BLM and trying to do a political movement, and not a bunch of rioters doing stuff to do fucking rioting for no reason. Now, to be clear, I'm not saying that none of this was because of BLM ideology. There were plenty of people that were like, I think specifically, if you look at the police station burning down, that's probably political violence. I doubt those people were just burning random fucking
Okay,
buildings
what do
down.
you think
But
about the
you're just
Minnesota Freedom
all
No,
of this
man, they
together
just
for
wanted to
What do you
loot
think
the
of the Minnesota
vending
Freedom
machines,
Fund?
bro. They just wanted to loot the vending machines, you know.
in the police.
What do you think about
station.
Alexandria
Police station.
Ocasio-Cortez talking about social justice when all these Antifa and BLM riots are going on? Like, what does that say?
So I've got a few
That's
statements from
legitimate
Kamala Harris.
violence.
For example, by the way, so when that whole incident happened with the attempt on Trump's life, Kamala Harris said, "I'm deeply disturbed by the possible assassination to perform President Trump today. As we gather the facts, I will be clear. I condemn political violence. We all must do our part to ensure that this incident does not lead to more violence." Now,
Vince,
we
did
already
she look at
know
the
Andrew
camera?
Wilson has
Sounds like
already
dog
said that
whistle.
these are dog whistles. So I'm sure that this won't be satisfactory. But there was also when she made a statement regarding the Charlie Kirk incident. She said, "Let me be clear. Political violence has no place in America. I condemn this act, and we all must work together to ensure this does not lead to more violence." So again, when we talk about the Charlie Kirk incident, we talk about President Trump, we could talk about, I think there were,
No, we
I
lost
lost
it
me
again.
again, but
I could look for
Fucking
and see.
deep state, man.
Yeah, I'm working as best as I can with what I got. So excuse me if the internet goes out.
It's
I tried
better.
my hotspot
I
as
mean,
much
it's
as I
better
tried,
than
but-
it was. The thing is like the only frustrating thing is you know, I want to hear what you're saying, and you cut.
No, I
you know,
appreciate
you
that.
cut in and out. So
You should type out every statement before you say it. So as soon as you cut
But
out,
no,
I
so
think
there's
that'll
several different. There's several different bits of the where you see Kamala Harris and numerous other high-ranking profile Democrats again condemning these things.
yeah, so Andrew Wilson did talk about the dog whistles. I do think there's a lot of that involved, but it's not just the dog whistles, right? You also are responsible for the climate that you create that causes these things. The difference between Democrats and Republicans is that when George Floyd died, you caused all these riots. When Charlie Kirk died, we hosted prayer vigils and that called for peace.
Yeah,
When you
because
have,
ultimately you
Kamala
guys have
Harris,
actually
when you have
nothing to be
Kamala-
upset
I'm
about.
almost finished.
Hold on.
When you have Kamala Harris raising bails for these violent rioters, the Minnesota Freedom Fund, you should look it up. When you have Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez saying that we should respect social justice, when you have people standing in front of fires, calling arson and the riots mostly peaceful, and you have all these CNN pundits, MSNBC pundits saying all these things, you're very responsible for the ongoing political climate that causes people to engage in actions of this sort. And I think it's very clear that when we have these cases, you can't just bypass it by saying Kamala Harris condemned it, because Kamala Harris
this guy
also
gave me a
bailed out
10-page
defendants,
pamphlet
who
that has
were-
all the studies linked at the
who were
end. I
guilty
can't wait
of
to
these
shove that
violent
right up
crimes.
his ass.
I'm actually curious, like just on that one thing specifically, and this is not a gotcha. If you could show me specifically,
That means it's a
the people
gotcha,
that
by
she
the
was-
way. Don't
No,
listen
I'm
to his
serious.
bullshit
Like, if you
lies.
could show me specifically that she's like saying, here's the bail fund for someone who like committed an illegal act, and like in the same way, I would say I don't think these things are proportional, but they are very similar. That Donald Trump would pardon someone who like did seditious conspiracy.
I've got the tweet.
I think that bailing out. No, I know she retweeted it, but like, I want to know like the crime specifically that these people did. Because if it was like what Vince was talking about in LA, and hey, they got arrested or whatever for not leaving an area, I don't think that is equal to saying that this person is endorsing violence. But if you're paying for the bail of someone who burned down a police car or some shit like that, I could say that there's a okay argument there. I think the problem is here that you're saying, I mean, you said this in your opening, John, that the right always condemns this. The right doesn't participate in this at all. And I just think this is so ridiculous. I mean, to be fair, I know Andrew did say that, yeah, obviously the right's going to be part of some, crazy rhetoric or whatever. But every time we show you an example of a right winger, like, for example, this is a Donald Trump quote. If he says, "It is the enemy from within. They're very dangerous. They're Marxists, they're communists, and fascists. They're dangerous for our country." Speaking about like the Democrats, right? Like this is somehow not at all responsible for any right-wing violence committed against the people who he's condemning completely as the totality. He's grouping this not as these small left-wing fringe people, like you try to say when it's right-wing. He says it's the Democratic Party. Stephen Miller says the Democratic Party is the party of extremists. And somehow this is not at all responsible for not toning down the temperature.
It doesn't
Like,
look.
this
I
is
haven't
completely
actually
asymmetrical
seen.
analysis.
I haven't actually
Show me an
seen.
example.
Yeah, show me the example of the links between that rhetoric and any of this so-called right-wing political violence. You can't. Not only that, just to refute this easily, Kamala Harris in October 2024 said that Donald Trump's a fascist during a CNN town hall, stating his actions and rhetoric echoed fascist leaders. She reiterated this in her speeches, linking it to his admiration for authoritarian figures, Hitler. All right, this is what she was claiming. So this is the woman who's running for president, and she's your party leader at this point, right? Your party's leader.
Yeah,
she's
could
running
you
for
show me some
president.
violence tied to this, please?
So the thing is like when,
Well, no, I'm
yeah,
using the same
of
standard you
course.
just applied to me.
Hey,
Can you show me the
fascist,
violence
catch.
tied to
Hey,
that?
fascist, catch.
Okay, so again, so you think this woman
Hey,
was
fascist,
this,
catch.
person,
Come
Charlie
on,
Kirk,
man.
was inspired by Kamala Harris saying that Trump was a fascist?
I think that the totality of the Democrat machine is working in unison for the message that Donald Trump and the right wing are a bunch of Nazi fascists, and that, yes, she contributed to that rhetoric greatly. And I don't see the same thing on the right at all. I don't see a unified message in the party saying that let's see instead. What I see instead is I see on the right, they condemn political violence basically always. I don't see the fractional groups.
No.
I don't see the fractional groups like you do with Antifa, things
Here,
like
I got a
this,
few-
who are, shut up, let me finish, who are
Go
doing
ahead.
these cell organizations for violence, who are linked to NGOs, who many of these NGOs are also donors to the DNC. So on the one hand, they're funding the riots, and on the other hand, they're also funding the DNC. It's
All right, to be
crazy.
clear,
How does that work?
I mean, if we still haven't gone through the CSIS, but if you want to talk about like small unit cells of right-wing violent terror, like the
Let's.
Boogaloo Boys, like the 3% Michigan Militia, like the Proud Boys, like the people who
Let's get
planned
into
the
all of them.
seditious conspiracy on January 6th, I think it's kind of weird that you're running away and saying this doesn't exist.
Let's start.
on the
Well,
right.
let's start
When
with the
Donald
Proud
Trump
Boys.
can say
What
something like,
terrorism
"Hey,
did the Proud Boys do?
stand
What
back and
terrorism did the
stand
Proud
by,"
Boys?
Because he can't fucking
What
condemn them.
terrorism
That's
did the
insane.
Proud Boys do? What?
What, trying to overthrow the government? And
No,
kidnap
no,
politicians
no,
on
no, no,
January
no,
6th?
no, no,
Yeah,
no.
seditious
Before,
conspiracy,
hang
yeah.
on. Before January 6th, these people were allocated by Democrats as being some sort of like domestic terror cell, that they were evil right-wing extremists. What did they do? Except beat up
Why are
Antifa
you
members who
moving
were
away
showing
from the
up,
thing
who
that I'm
were showing,
describing, which
because
is
what
the
I'm
dead to
showing you,
rights
what I'm
seditious
showing, because I'm
conspiracy
showing you
thing.
something important. What's important is that long before J6, and Gavin McInnes starts the Proud Boys, okay, and what they were, the Proud Boys were doing everything they could to stop Antifa from beating people in the fucking streets, and they did.
Yeah,
They
and
actually
you
did a
know
pretty
why
good.
Gavin
Hang on,
McInnes
let me finish,
the
bro.
Proud Boys?
Because otherwise they were threatening to put him in prison.
No, it was because they got too racist and extreme for him, and even he couldn't handle it.
No, it's because there was political pressure which was put on Gavin. I know Gavin. Do you?
No, I don't know, guys.
Yeah, I do. And what happened there, I have a whole interview about it. You can go watch it on the Crucible.
Okay.
And so the thing is like, look, that's not what happened at all. What happened is there was a great amount of political pressure which was put on McInnes, trying to say that he was a terrorist, and that's what they were trying to move towards with leftist rhetoric. And he was getting
Think he would've stuck around
he
during
was
the
getting
seditious conspiracy thing or
deplatformed.
no?
Hang on, he was getting deplatformed everywhere. And for what? All the Proud Boys did was protect people from Antifa fucking lunatics. It's all they
It's a really
did.
interesting way of framing it, considering I could say, well, all the Antifa was doing was protecting the other people from the crazy white supremacist Proud Boys. But in reality, you've got two.
They
pretty
were
extreme
actually
political
attacking. Look at
groups
what happened in
beating
New
the shit
York.
out of each
No,
other.
that's not what
And you're not
happened.
gonna try to say
Look
that,
at what
the
happened in New York. They were
great Proud
attacking
Boys
random
just
people.
doing the great things, you know. Like,
Do
this
you
is obviously
do you
just
realize
crazy.
that in a fight you usually have initiators, you have aggressors. It's true you can have mutual combat, but in the cases that I saw with Proud Boys, it was
Oh,
not
did you see a
mutual.
bunch of videos?
It
That's
was not.
crazy.
No, it wasn't just
Is that- is that
videos.
a study
It's
of how many
official.
videos?
There's official reports on it, like what happened in New York. They were attacked and defended themselves. They got arrested because they won. That's it. They just won. Like they won the fight, and so they get arrested. It's fucking crazy.
About all the Proud Boys and all the violence they've ever committed.
Show
And
me
somehow they
yours.
just, like,
Show me yours. And
stumbled
by
in-
the way,
well, my evidence is that they committed fucking seditious.
oh well, that's
conspiracy on
nice. They were
January
all
6th. I think
pardoned
that's
for
pretty
it,
fucking
fucker.
insane
They were
too.
all
Let's do
pardoned
that.
for it, fucker.
Yeah, they all
Sorry.
got pardoned, which I believe is an endorsement for them to do something.
Well,
like that again.
I
It's
think what it is that
so.
there was a witch hunt that was going on, and once the president came in,
Dude, they text
they
each other.
pardoned him.
Make no mistake, we did this. It's the most dead to
Did
rights
what?
fucking. They did this shit.
they did what?
Planned
though?
to overthrow the fucking.
No, they didn't
government.
plan to overthrow the government. It's
I
ridiculous.
know they suck because
So-
they're fucking lame.
They didn't plan to
You're
overthrow the
acting like
government.
it's
And
a
not
witch
only
hunt.
that,
All
let
guys,
me
we're
just
gonna
point
go in
this.
there and walk in
Yeah,
the lines.
and let me
We're
point
doing
this out to
Proud
you
Boys.
so
Let's
that
go.
you note they were all pardoned. You got nothing. And you can't point to anything pre-J6 either that they actually did wrong.
Well,
and yet they're considered a
mean,
violent,
it wasn't
right?
Proud
So
Boys
hang on.
violent
You used them as an example. Yes, you did, fucker. You used them as an example of a right-wing group.
And your only defense against that is, well, the guy who told them and wanted them to go do that said that it's okay that they did that. So you have nothing.
What was his name?
Was like some crazy witch hunt when we have text messages
Yeah.
from them saying, yeah, we're doing it.
But
We're doing the crime.
but here's the thing, right? And this is what's really funny. Those text messages, one, in context, actually don't say that. And two, to go through this, these guys were pardoned for anything which would have been considered criminal on J6. Not only that, let's point out that there was left-wing groups who were trying to label them, including the ADL, as being a racist domestic terror group before they were ever doing anything wrong. Most of the groups that you just cited, Boogaloo Boys, there was Oath Keepers, Proud Boys, most of these guys never did a fucking thing wrong, and the left was already claiming that they were domestic terrorists and this type of thing. So you're just lying through your teeth and you get the timelines all botched.
When they beat up people and do terrorism, it's always because the other people did it to them first, and I know this because I saw videos of it, just to be clear.
Show me an example to the contrary then, fucker. Show me an example to the contrary.
When I have a study here that's claiming that some of these people, because you can go through the methodology, I bet you'd be really upset, and this is why I really didn't want to pick through it. It mentions the Boogaloo Boys.
I'm sure it does.
I bet you'd be like, well, they've never done anything violent, but I would need to show something. You would need to show me that these people are not committing an act of terrorism. You'd have to show me some sort of thing that every single time they've been arrested for violence, it's always self-defense. And if otherwise, I just have no reason to believe that, like, oh, well, I'm saying that these terrorist groups aren't terrorist groups, therefore the study is invalid.
No, I'm saying that the methodology for the study that you didn't even read, you gave me a 10-page pamphlet which sources all of the actual supporting material at the end of it, right? You didn't even fucking read it. You still don't even want to go through the actual methodology because you're concerned that it's going to demonstrate. You're concerned that it's going to demonstrate that you and I both know the same thing, that most of these things which are classified as right-wing violence, you wouldn't agree with. And so the thing is so funny here is like, and even then, even if I granted this to you, the funniest part of all of this is how fucked your timeline is. How are these people going to go after clubs like the Proud Boys and things like this, the Oath Keepers, before they ever did anything wrong and preemptively labeled them as terror groups? And then suddenly, of course, J6 happens. We always knew it, guys. We always knew it.
That's the absolute worst thing they've ever done out, and now you're claiming they've never done anything violent except for
what? The worst thing that you mean the thing that they were pardoned for?
I mean, you've seen a bunch of videos.
The worst thing that they were pardoned for?
The worst thing they were pardoned for.
They were pardoned for it.
Oh yeah, I like how you're smugly like, gotcha, dude. The guy who told you to go do it, pardon them. Like that's kind of the whole issue.
Wait a second. I'm really confused. Were the Proud Boys pardoned for J6? Can you have false convictions which you are pardoned for by the chief law enforcement officer, for instance? Is that why they have pardon power? Is that why they have pardon power? They have pardon power for a reason. It's specifically to stop when there are witch hunts like this.
I want to say this. I want to say this.
My authoritarian leader is allowed to pardon anyone for anything if it helps him out.
Oh yeah, he's an authoritarian. He's an authoritarian leader.
Let Vince go. He hasn't spoken in a while.
Yeah. Here's a crazy thing I'm hearing about this. Right, is so we have two contrasting things happening right now. We have Gavin Newsom, who, when the protest happened, said, "I condemn them. It should be peaceful," and they were arrested. They were not released. They were arrested. Now they may be released on bond, but for
doing violent crimes against police officers.
No, I'm not done talking, Andrew. I know. I'm glad. But see, here's the crazy thing about this is, as Andrew's laughing, he doesn't realize that there's other contrast to this, which is Donald Trump, who has not condemned, quite frankly, the Jan 6 things. And even if he did, it's contrasted by the fact that he actually pardoned them. So if he actually cared about that, and he did care about political violence on his side, then he would probably let the justice system work its way through. But we know that Donald Trump doesn't really care. In fact, he's actually called Kamala Harris a fascist, a communist, a Marxist. We've seen Stephen Miller saying the same thing, echoing the same thing. Yet I haven't heard anybody mention anything about Donald Trump saying those words. because it's okay when the right does it, but when the left does it, somehow now it's all sorts of crazy.
Yeah.
right?
So you have
There's
the
lots of lies.
I'll-
There's lots of lies
I'll
there.
let
I mean,
John
first
Paul-
of all,
Totally.
Where's the lies?
You
Yeah, tell me lies.
well, you said he didn't condemn it. January 7th, he released a statement saying, "I would like to begin by addressing the heinous attack on the United States Capitol. Like all Americans, I am outraged by the violence, lawlessness, and mayhem.
So outraged he
I
pardoned
immediately
everybody.
deployed
That
the
makes
National
sense.
Guard."
I thought he didn't
federal law
condemn him
enforcement-
5 seconds ago, you lying gutless fuck.
Guys, both of you,
Is
let John
that
Paul finish.
is that condemning? Is
He-
that condemning?
I don't call it
violence?
condemning if
Like-
he ends up, and I don't call it condemning if he ends up after the fact pardoning every
Okay, do
single.
you
I
know
think
how
it's
much
a
violence
hollow-
actually was
hollow-
on January
hollow
6th? Do you know how
condemnation.
much violence actually was there?
There was
So there's
probably, I
6
think there was over
violence,
100 people that were
6 full
charged.
violence.
There was about 170 people charged with assaulting a law enforcement officer.
Were any of them
I think
charged with
there's, I think,
insurrection, fuckhead?
160.
Nope,
No.
seditious-
Were-
None of them were charged with insurrection, fuckhead. Not a single one.
170 people were
No
charged with
one's-
assaulting.
Were there
law
any of them
enforcement officers.
charged with
Andrew, you're
insurrection?
boxing shadows right now. No one's talking about
Yeah, yes.
insurrection.
Yes,
lot of
that's
them
what you
already
guys just
served.
said. You just said it was a seditious insurrection 5 seconds
No,
ago.
it's a seditious conspiracy. That's not the same thing.
Oh,
as
so it
insurrection.
wasn't an insurrection?
I said it was seditious.
So what? I
conspiracy.
just want to be clear. Then it wasn't an insurrection.
I'd say that any
I
definition.
don't know what
that
this
I
has
use
to do with
insurrection,
any of the
you want
I just want to
me
make sure that
say
we're
no.
clear.
I want to make
Was
sure
it an
this has nothing to
insurrection
do
or
with the
not?
conversation.
Was it
Nah,
an
it was a
ins-
seditious
That-
conspiracy.
this has
It was
nothing
Okay,
to do
illegal
with
so it wasn't an
Right.
insurrection.
There's
Got it.
nothing, There's
has
nothing
nothing to do with
inconsistent
conversation.
about this. You can completely condemn the violence that occurred, which
And then
Donald
pardon them
Trump did.
afterwards. Yeah, that makes a lot
And
of
you can
sense.
pardon
That
people
sounds
who
like a dog
believe-
whistle to me, John. I don't know. I mean,
Yeah, it sounds
he's,
like a
he's
dog
speaking
whistle.
out of both
If you
sides of his
believe they
mouth.
should
On
be
one
pardoned,
side, he
if you
said
believe they
condemn.
should
On
be
the other side, he
pardoned.
said you
Well,
guys
how would you
understand
know?
the
You
law.
won't let him
Okay,
finish
okay,
what he's
everyone,
saying.
Everyone, I'm going to let John Paul go first, and then Soy, you can respond.
Now, my understanding is you have people who are outside of the Capitol who are recording it. Some people who are even let inside the building, almost walking in like a tour, not really causing much violence, who go and serve years of jail time, along with other people who maybe, like, if they were violent, they also served jail time. And you can pardon those people on the basis that you think that they were either serving a term that was way too long, which was the case when you have many people who were simply trespassing, for instance, spending years and years of jail time and fines, and you can pardon those people while also saying that the violence was absolutely outrageous. And Vincent, you said that Donald Trump never condemned the January 6th attack, when I just
I think
read
it's
to
a
you the statement he
Holocaust, sure.
released right after, calling it a heinous attack, saying what he did to try to stop it, and condemning
And
the
then what
violence.
did he do afterwards,
John,
John?
how can-
What
how
did
can
he
you
do later?
How many
Wait,
years
wait,
afterwards?
Wait, hold on. I
4
thought I got
years
to
later?
respond.
Hold on,
According
hold on.
to
Soy's
you,
next.
respond.
Hold on.
Yeah,
Soy's
how
next.
can you claim that he thinks the violence is outrageous if he thinks they did nothing wrong and pardon them for it? If he's pardoning everyone, like, I agree, there are people in there that maybe shouldn't be in jail for 20 years for trespassing, whatever ridiculous thing, but someone who's committing seditious conspiracy, planning to overthrow the government, someone who, like, beat up police officers, any of these violent rioters are also pardoned. How can you possibly say that he thinks that violence is outrageous if he thinks you should get zero punishment for it?
He did not pardon every single individual, but additionally, what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to steelman your position. I'm going to assume
Okay.
that you are completely correct in what you're saying. There's two main problems. The one main problem is that whenever we give actions done by Kamala Harris and other politicians, we see you and Vincent constantly is saying, like, oh, well, she condemned the action, so it's
No,
okay.
wait,
and
John,
that's
to
the
be
only
clear,
proof.
in
That's
good
the
faith, I
only
asked you
defense.
this. Can you show me the person that she retweeted in this fund? And if they did something that was a violent action, I actually agree with you. I would say that is the closest thing that you have shown me to a left winger saying tacitly that violence is okay by bailing them out. I've actually said that. For all these other things, every single left wing politician is saying this is awful, we condemn it, and their actions are not indicating of anything otherwise. They're not pardoning violent people. But if you do show me that specific fund and the specific person and what they did was violent, yeah, I'd say, yeah, that is actually tacitly endorsing violence. And I wouldn't agree with that. But that is in totality so
Wait a
far
second.
fewer than
I just
all
want to
these
make sure.
examples
Hang
you
on.
touched on the
Can I
right.
make sure I got this right? So if I show you a bunch of tweets from left-wing politicians post Kirk's death, who literally strawman his positions and say that he was a racist fascist, you don't consider that to be some sort of, like, I don't
I'd
know.
say that's an accurate description of objective reality. No,
Okay, so the thing is like, that's not them basically giving a pass, right?
No, it's
No,
not, because
of
they
course
don't
not.
need
You
to
wanted
give
an
an
So
example.
hang
They
on.
don't
So to
say
get
that's
this
the
right,
only option.
hang on. I just want to make sure so I get this right.
Mhm.
So when it comes to Charlie Kirk, they can condemn the violence out of one side of their mouth, and then on the other side, they can say that, well, but he was a racist, misogynist, Nazi, right? But John Paul, when he brings up, well, okay, Trump can condemn the violence, right? But also
can
give them
pardon
pardons,
violence.
but also give them pardons later on because he thought that the prison sentences were far too stiff. Why is it that you think that argument would work against John, but not against you in the same context?
Left-wing politicians pardoning people committing violence,
Here,
which
you
is
want
why
an
I gave
example,
up
right?
the example. If you're showing her saying, let's bail out people who committed violence, I would say, yes, that is pretty similar and something I would not be okay with, versus people accurately describing his ideology, which you say it can only lead to violence, which you actually had to caveat and say, well, it's only going to lead to violence because although everyone really understands that's not necessarily the only way you can deal with a fascist, a bunch of crazy people are going to get the wrong idea. But the crazy people on the right, when Donald Trump calls us fascists, I mean, they don't listen to him. Like, I just don't understand how you think these two things are even close to equal.
Okay, so if
That's
you want
not
an
an
example,
argument.
the
That was
direct
just
example-
paddling.
Hold on.
The
No, you just
direct
didn't
direct
understand it. I
example was
understand.
Kamala Harris promoted the Minnesota Freedom Fund,
Mhm.
and which was set to bail out protesters.
Mhm.
And among those, you have George Howard, who was bailed out on August 6th,
Okay.
who was arrested on a domestic violence charge. And then later that month, on August 29th, he was arrested again, accused of murder in a shooting. And so you have Kamala Harris retweeting the Minnesota Freedom Fund and telling people to donate to it.
You don't have to
to
explain
bail
further.
out
I
people
completely
like this.
agree. I think that was incredibly irresponsible of Kamala Harris. I think that contributed. I could say you could even tie this directly to her and other politicians who retweeted this stuff for all of the violence that came out of anyone bailed out by that fund. I would say ideologically consistent. That is not okay. In the same way that Joe Biden mass pardoned these like a bunch of drug dealers who may now go out and do more crime. I think that is awful.
And his
But if we're gonna
son?
talk about what?
And his son.
Well, I don't know if
And
I
his
think
son?
his son's reformed. His son is reformed. I don't think he's ever going to commit another crime.
Yeah.
right? I think he's good. All right. Hunter Biden
meth
is a straight shooter.
Biden.
2028. Okay,
Yeah,
he's totally straight shooter.
Uh-huh.
But the problem is, if we're looking,
That's
at
not.
this
That
as a
wasn't corrupt though, right? That was
No, I think it was. I
Oh,
think it
okay.
was. That's the whole point.
But
is
you
we're able
voted
to
for.
call out
But you
our own
voted for him
fucking
anyway.
side.
But you did vote for Biden, right? And he would have
Yeah,
voted.
it's called. I'm able to make an analysis. Of
Yeah.
which
Would you have
of these
voted?
things
Would you have
absolutely
voted for him for a second term post him pardoning
I would
Hunter?
vote for Obama for a 5th term. Actually, in fact, I'm voting.
Wait,
Yeah,
Obama
yeah.
for
Without the
28
trolling,
when
can
he
you just answer my question?
voted.
If he
Oh
had
yeah, it's not
pardoned,
trolling when we're talking about fucking political violence, and now we're going
Yeah.
about Hunter Biden's son and all the crimes.
well,
he's
I'm just
doing.
looking for
He's lost in the
consistency.
fucking weeds
I'm
about
just
this,
looking
whereas
for
what I see
consistency.
here- what I see
Well, yeah,
here,
but every
and
time I
wanna-
try to
wanna
pry you
really
for
highlight this.
consistency,
I
you have to
really
keep
want to
running
highlight
away.
this.
I've
I
answered
wanna-
all of your
No,
questions, dude.
I'm not cherry picking. I
Okay,
just,
okay,
I
I'm gonna
have
let
to
Soy
everybody
go.
that
mention
agrees
this.
with me.
I have to mention this. Okay, so this is the biggest concession of the debate.
Yeah, because
Kamala
we're good
Harris
faith enough to
actively-
say this
Hold
is
on,
a bad
sorry, let
thing.
John-
No,
You will
let John
not
Paul
say
finish.
this,
I
by
understand.
the way.
Let John
You'll
Paul
agree
finish.
with my premise. You will not
I
say
wanna
this about
predicate.
Trump,
I
will
want to
you?
predicate.
You're gonna
I
filibuster,
really,
right?
I really appreciate. No, I really appreciate the consistency, and I appreciate that you're willing to concede this. I'm saying this is the biggest, most substantial concession of the debate because the Antifa and BLM riots of 2020 was the largest scope and scale of political violence, sustained political violence that we've seen in modern U.S. history. And when you have the vice president, the running vice president, and then the future leader of the party posting Minnesota Freedom Fund to bail out people like George Howard.
When was
That
George
is
Howard
absolutely
Shut
released?
your fucking
insane.
mouth and let him finish, Vince.
No.
August
Whoa.
6th.
No, I'm not gonna-
August
I'm
6th,
not
he was
gonna-
bailed out.
I'm not-
August
I'm
6th,
not
he
gonna
was
take
bailed
words
out.
from you.
I'm not gonna do-
John,
I'm not-
John,
I'm not gonna
John,
do-
hey, John,
Hold
hey,
it.
let me ask you
Get
something,
Andrew.
John.
Shut the fuck
When
up.
was it, John?
Let
John,
Let John Paul go.
John, let me ask you something.
Vince, just let John finish his thing, and then you
Okay.
can ask your question.
All right, I respect you, Corbin. Good.
Yeah, Vince.
Okay,
Shut up.
Shut the fuck up, Andrew.
He's one of many. I encourage you to look into the reports themselves. The fact is that Kamala Harris posted and encouraged people to donate to the Minnesota Freedom Fund, which was an organization that was bailing out these violent people. That's one example. If I looked into it more, and I'm free to look into it more after this debate and give you all the examples of all the people who were arrested under violent charges and how that is directly that's monumentally impactful when Kamala Harris is the one posting this in the face of the Antifa and BLM riots, which are burning down cities, injuring officers, killing people. Yeah, once again, $2+ billion of damage. Somehow we're going to completely ignore the $2+ billion of damage when we're talking about responsibility and political violence. We have an actor in the mainstream left-wing political landscape who is functioning in such a way that is endorsing, rationalizing, excusing, tolerating the violence that we have seen. You can say that she condemns it, but when she condemns it and posts
And that's
the
the
Minnesota
debate. We
Freedom
win.
Fund, you have a glaring contradiction on your
We
hands.
win.
So real quick, Vince, I have
so
to answer this.
we
because
win.
We're talking, you're right, about political violence. So, for example, the specific
Soy.
instance you say,
Soy.
which I said
Soy.
was bad.
Soy.
Yeah.
So,
what?
dude, I promised Vince he could go, and he hasn't
Oh,
spoken.
I just
yet.
want to
Go ahead.
respond to this one quick
Yeah, just-
thing. I
just
just
let
want to
Vince
make a
go, yeah.
small little asterisk to what John Paul is saying about George Howard. George Howard was released in 2021, a year after the tweet from Kamala Harris. It had nothing to do with the BLM protests. So again, at the time, Kamala Harris had no idea about this George Howard thing because it didn't even exist yet. So again, you want to bring up the George Howard incident. This is just a proxy of the actual bail fund itself and what it became, not what it was at the time in which Kamala Harris supported it. I just
I'm
want to
not
make that
making-
asterisk.
Yeah, I'm not making the claim that Kamala Harris specifically wanted to bail out George Howard. I'm making the claim that she's supporting a group that is functioning in such a way that is bailing out people like George Howard.
After.
Right. So to be
Right,
Right,
clear,
that
she
is the
endorsed it.
function
Bailing
of the group that she is promoting.
Yeah, that's
Right,
not
right.
what's in. That's not
I
being
wanna-
contested, Vince.
Yeah, hold on, Andrew.
Okay,
I do
let
want
Soy.
to. I want to grant it. Let's just say that she helped promote this fund, and one of the many people, for example, I would want to see like to what degree these people are being bailed out for, like the protesters who are arrested in L.A. being in the wrong place at the wrong time, or doing violence, like throwing Molotov cocktails or burning down police cars or whatever. That's pretty important.
Can we
as to why
concede-
they're doing this?
Go-
But let's be
okay.
clear. Hold on. Let's be clear because
Okay.
I do want to say this. Let's just say that she specifically did this, and this guy was released because of this bail fund,
Yeah.
like the day after the tweet.
Okay.
What's happening here is the political violence that is happening afterwards would have to be the downstream effects of how she's doing this. Now, I think the chilling effect, or I guess the opposite of the chilling effect, is, hey, protesters, if you get arrested, we're going to let you go. This is what I'm conceding and agreeing. Yeah, that is something that could potentially like encourage people to go out and riot and protest again in a violent way if those violent people are the ones being released. But this guy, in the example you like cited, he didn't go out and do another political violence. He went out and fucking killed some random person, which has absolutely nothing to do with BLM. So you would have to show, one, when you keep citing, oh, well, this BLM thing, it's all this billions of dollars of damage, which was bad, by the way. I'm not trying to say that was okay. It's somehow downstream of political violence when you can say that a lot of this was rioting and people taking advantage of people protesting. And yeah, it was mostly peaceful, as much as you guys fucking hate that. Just statistically, that's true. But after all that, and me and my good faith willing to say, yeah, if she does this and lets them out, that's potentially a chilling effect and letting people go and do it more. You will never, ever say the same about Trump pardoning violent January 6 people. Why not?
Yeah. So
I actually did grant that to you.
Oh, you did? Okay.
I did steel man your
Oh,
argument. I
okay.
said even if that's the case.
No.
in
That's no.
comparison to
Don't
the large-
steel man it. I'm literally saying this is not a steel man. This is me
Mhm.
admitting. I think that if Kamala Harris is saying, "Hey, protesters, it's okay if you go do violence," in some ways, if they release violent protesters, will kind of give the signal to certain other people that they might be able to commit violence for. And I don't think that's okay. I'm not asking you to steel man me. I'm saying, do you think that Donald Trump pardoning violent people is going to then encourage them to go and
so
do
I would
violence
say
again?
I would say that these are distinctly different situations, and so
It's always different.
well.
always
Yeah,
different.
I mean,
Always
only when things are different, though. Then they're different because they're not the same, Fitz.
Yeah, it's on the right.
It's
It's on
only
the
because
right.
when
That's
things are
why.
different, though, Fitz. So anyway, here's
Anyways.
why. So you what you're actually trying to argue right now, Soy Pill, is that more people will do political violence because they just don't mind getting in prison for 4 fucking years before they might potentially get a pardon one day. That's fucking crazy, one. And the second issue here, Soy, which is really funny, is he's right. You made the biggest concession of the debate, which is that you guys have now acknowledged that there's bail funds all over the place that do indeed. If you just concede that they're doing this with some people who are violent and bailing them out, right? Show me the right-wing equivalent. Go ahead.
I don't have to show you the right way.
Because there
We're
isn't
talking
one,
about
you
the
fuckers.
scale
You
of
fucking
political
gutless
violence.
fucks. You
First of
lose.
all,
You
we're specifically
lose.
talking about one bail fund specifically retweeted one time by one politician, and we're talking about those politicians. And the reason I'm willing to concede that is because I have intellectual consistency. But you guys are like, oh, these people that Donald Trump had tried to overthrow an election for him and got released as soon as he.
How
had the
many
political
years in
power to
prison
do
did
it.
they spend?
Oh, 4 whole years. Well, I guess if Donald Trump
So
has
that's-
promised to pardon
so-
us, we'll never do it
so-
again.
so
We'll
to
never
get-
do a
so
political
wait-
violence.
difference.
It's
So to
absolutely
get this right, so to get
ridiculous.
this
And I don't know if
right,
you're just
hey
good or
guys,
bad.
if you go
It's
and you start rioting in the Capitol, right, you'll spend 4 years in prison and maybe one day you'll get pardoned if you're
And do you
lucky.
think that-
That's
Oh,
hang on,
look,
Soy.
I got
So,
one.
hey, let me
President,
let me
you would
ask the
pardon.
fucking
Guys,
question.
I've
Let me
got the
ask.
equivalent.
Let me ask.
Andrew respond.
Right,
and then
you'll
Soy
spend
respond.
4 fucking years in prison, right? And by the way, in horrific conditions in comparison to the crime you're convicted of. Okay, horrific conditions for a lot of these people. You would not have agreed with it, and you guys would be bad faith if you said that you would, with the type of conditions that they got for what it was that they were actually prosecuted for. So the thing here that's funny is like, no, I don't think it's signaling to anybody, hey, if you go, you'll spend 4 fucking years in prison and maybe hopefully one day get a pardon, as opposed to a bail fund which has you out in fucking 2 days. Give me a break.
To be clear, he was out a year
Not
later.
to mention,
I don't know if you were listening for that part, but also
No, I'm not saying talking about that specific example.
People
I'm not talking about that specific example.
For 22 years, and that's somehow not enough. And the only reason that he didn't pardon them is either one, it wasn't politically expedient, and two, he didn't succeed in overthrowing the fucking election. They probably would have spent a couple months in
Soy
jail if
Pill,
he actually had.
Soy Pill, how many years do you think they should have spent?
Enrique Tarrio, I don't know. What's the average for seditious conspiracy?
Okay, not him. How about the other ones?
I don't know about
Yeah,
the
so
other
this
ones.
is
Do you only know one?
This is the
Are you
interesting
gonna
thing that he
specifically
mentions, and
pick
this is a
apart
lot of
whether or
things
not
that-
I know the violent threat for one of these people, and if not, then my entire argument about whether or not these people shouldn't have been pardoned for committing violence is wrong.
Should they have gotten life?
I don't think everyone should have gotten life.
4 years. I mean, 4
years.
years. 4 years, a long time in prison, man.
I'd say
Who
4
got-
years is
who
fair
got-
enough.
wait,
for a lot of
also-
these
there's
people.
Come
I
on,
wanna
4
make-
years.
There's a
Hold on.
massive difference
Stop.
here. The reason why this is also one of the biggest concessions of the debate is because Kamala Harris posted the Minnesota Freedom Front during the riots. What does that say to you? The riots are a sustained large portion of time. Even if I concede everything you're saying about January 6th, that was one day of an inexcusable
We've been trying to let
violence. There was
Vince speak.
Democratic
violence.
election or $2
His
billion.
fucking
No,
connection
we're
sucks.
talking
His
about
connection
responsibility
sucks.
and impact of the political parties. I am not excusing, like Andrew said, we completely condemn all and any political violence.
Do you
which
condemn
is
January
why it is
6th, John?
exactly wrong. Which is why it is wrong when during the violent
do you condemn
protests and
January
riots of Antifa and BLM, when you're posting bailout funds to help people who are protesting and who are in the riots to get out of jail. Like, what does that say?
So again,
if I'm a
you're
protester and I'm a part of
incapable
Antifa,
understanding that
if
you're
I'm a part of
conflating
Antifa, I'm going
protesting,
to be like,
violence,
wow, the
violent
vice
crime, and
president
all
is
of the other
tweeting out
things
the
that are
Minnesota
incorporated in
Freedom
this
Fund.
bail fund.
I
You're
can
completely
escape
incapable
It's
of
a
understanding
signal,
that.
dude. It's a signal. If she's retweeting a bail fund, it's a signal.
Donald Trump to pardon
Wait,
some of
wait,
these
wait.
trespassers. You
I wanna
can't
be
even
clear.
fucking condemn January 6th. You understand how fucking insane and unhinged and asymmetrical this is. You have made zero concessions, not because you're more right. It's because the only way you can even possibly get into our brains is to say you're steel manning us. When I am saying, yes, Kamala Harris potentially releasing a violent criminal or helping in doing that is sending some sort of signal, and that is not okay. And you're like, well, we win because we don't want to actually do the good faith thing and understanding that the January 6th stuff is fucked up. Andrew says 4 years is enough. I guess if you have the fucking brain of a bull,
I just condemned the January 6th violence.
Yes, it must just be because I'm so stupid, Soy. If only I were just a little bit smarter, I would understand that making these
like average IQ.
Yeah, that's true. So where does that? So where the fuck does that put you? The thing is so funny here is like you've been trounced every debate we've ever had, and including this one. And by the way, the funniest
victory I won.
The funniest.
Actually, I won.
The funniest part.
I'm declaring it right
now.
now.
The funniest part about all this is like how bad faith can you be when you try to make a comparison between somebody who tweets out a bail fund while rioting's going on, clear signal, and somebody who gives a pardon after evidence comes out over a 4-year course. Like, how are these things even comparable, Soy?
Yeah, because one of these people actually did something that was, I'm going to pardon people that I know did violence against this country and probably deserve to be in jail for what they're doing.
Did all of them do violence? Did all of them do violence?
You haven't even established that a majority of these people are violent. You've pointed out to one person who did a completely non-related political act after, and even then, I'm still granting you. You know what? I don't think that's okay to retweet that bail fund because that might be signaling to people that violence is okay.
I mentioned earlier that
January
even
6th was bad.
John,
that's how fucking bad faith you guys are.
That's
I mentioned earlier. I literally mentioned earlier that even if it's like, and I will agree, the vast majority of people did not burn down buildings and loot stores or whatever.
Would you say that's mostly peaceful then?
Okay, mostly peaceful means $2+ billion of damages, thousands of officers injured, and many more
Imagine
killed.
how many billions it would have been if they all
I am
weren't
talking
peaceful.
about the scope in scale, because if we're going to judge things based off of mostly peaceful, then both sides are mostly peaceful. And if you want to judge based on, based on the scope and impact that these have had, that has been the core framework of the debate. How much impact have these had? How many issues and problems have the left caused from political violence? You haven't mentioned any that is even remotely close to the destruction we saw in the Antifa.
Not even in the
right?
same
Not
universe,
even
by the way.
remotely.
Okay, so I've got some stats for you. So among the felony,
Did you
pleas,
chat
we had
GPT him? Can you be
172
honest? Did you
people
chat
involved in
GPT
law
him?
enforcement.
Did you chat GPT him, Vince?
130 that pled to obstructing law enforcement, and 69 that pled to assaulting law enforcement with a dangerous or deadly
Okay,
weapon.
I'm going to go into all these with you, but
When we
did you
look at
chat
seditious-
GPT him?
when we
My
look
chat
at-
wants to
and
know,
then when
Vince.
we look at seditious conspiracy,
I'm just going to ask you again when you're done.
seditious conspiracy. Soy, if I'm not mistaken, I believe Enrique Antario was either convicted. I think he was convicted of seditious conspiracy. So again, this wasn't as a matter of law. It was settled that they had done this particular crime. And so if Donald Trump was super about trying to uphold the rule of law, then he would have done so.
Anyway, real quick before I answer to this, did you chat GPT all that? The truth. Tell me the truth.
Yeah. So I had to look it up because the Department of Justice nuked that. Actually, if you go to the
So
source
I'm
of it,
debating
it's
with an
actually
AI.
nuked.
I'm debating with an AI right now.
Wait,
I didn't chat GPT
I
this.
wonder
I
if the
just
AI
looked
is
up assault with a
hallucinating.
deadly
But
weapon,
Andrew,
carry a sentence of anywhere up to 20 years. So 4 doesn't seem like nearly enough. So
yeah, and if Andrew wants to provide anything to go against the 172, you're more than welcome to do so.
Yeah. Okay. Repeat the argument. I'm sorry. I want to get the answer to my question first. Go ahead. What was the argument?
Answer to the argument is that 172 people pled guilty to assaulting law enforcement. You had 130 that pled guilty to obstructing law enforcement during civil disorder. 69 that pled to assaulting law enforcement with a dangerous or deadly weapon, and 4 pled to seditious conspiracy. So by matter of law, they were found guilty and have done those said crimes.
Do you agree with
In
me
which
that those
Donald-
are federal? That those are federal crimes? Were they federal crimes?
They were federal crimes.
Yeah.
yes.
And what is the prosecutorial victory rate in
Oh
federal
my God.
cases?
See, here's the funny thing about this, right? Is that Andrew Wilson, I was going to say, just because Donald Trump can do something doesn't change.
I wasn't going to say any of that.
Look at the contrast,
Bro.
Okay, so what is a federal
just,
conviction?
bad when
It
they
is
assume
pretty.
that
I,
federal-
dude, if you would just calm the fuck down and answer the questions,
federal
we can get through
conviction
it.
rate is significantly high.
Oh, fuck. We lost.
Completely a
again.
non sequitur from the fact that Donald Trump himself sat there and said,
Okay, so hang on.
If
Let's
you-
back
if you-
up. Let's back up because you
Yeah,
froze.
go ahead.
Because you froze, right?
Okay.
The federal conviction rate is significantly higher, right?
correct.
So if it's the case that federal prosecutors went to these people and told them, and they had their lawyers there, and said to them, if you plead guilty, you're going to get a lesser sentence to this versus if we take you to trial here on this. And then you're going to get a much stiffer sentence. This is usually how that works. Do you agree with me?
By that same logic, then
Mhm.
you would say that every single person in the federal court system that pled guilty is also due to have their themselves pardoned as well because it was a faulty conviction.
No,
In
I'm
the
not
eyes of
saying.
the
I'm
law.
not even
And,
saying it's a
Andrew,
faulty
let me ask
conviction.
you
Just
something.
calm
Andrew,
down, dude.
Andrew,
You keep
Andrew,
jumping.
let
If you wouldn't jump the how the fuck am I
breeze.
supposed to have a debate with this guy? It's just like
yeah, Andrew, let me ask you a question.
Uh-huh.
Okay. In the eyes of the law, if you plead guilty, does that mean that you had committed that crime in the eyes of the law?
in the
Yes or
eyes of
no?
the law, sure.
Okay, then.
Mhm.
So then, if they did commit that,
Does
crime
that
in the
mean though
eyes of the
that
law,
in fact
Oh,
you
Angela,
did?
Angela, let me finish.
Does that mean in fact you did though?
by necessity it does? in the
No,
court
it
of
does.
the
By
law?
necessity, it doesn't. If I pled
Yes, it
guilty to a rape but never committed the rape, did I commit the rape?
Yes.
I don't
Yes.
even know where to go with that. I'm all done
Yeah.
with you, bro. I'm all done with you.
Yeah.
Okay.
You work your way. and
Okay,
I'll
I'm
tell
done,
you-
dude.
I'll
No,
tell you
I
how
don't. Listen, that's the
Vince,
best soundbite I'll ever get from this fucking debate.
That's okay.
Okay,
Andrew,
it's
I'm
the
not put
best.
you on whatever, talking about how much you raped. So I know it was a weird definition of it, but
Yeah. So again, the idea here is that
Yo, really?
Donald
So if your girlfriend woke you up with a blowjob, she's raping you, Soy? I just want to make sure I got that clear.
what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I just want to make sure I got that clear. But anyway,
If
this.
I didn't say yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
that's
I
it.
can't. I don't know where to go with that with you, man. We live in completely
great.
different paradigms here.
That's great. We do, and that's been exhibited throughout this entire thing. So
Mm-hmm.
when we look at again Donald Trump saying again, we've seen the left where they say they condemn it, and then they go in and they actually arrest these individuals and let the court system work. its way
Woman,
through
bring
the
me a
courts.
drink.
Now, if you did not commit these
That
crimes, then
must
guess what?
be
There's
the
an appellate
dumbest
process
thing
that you can
I've
go
ever
through
heard in
to
my
approve
life.
Those particular things.
I've
And
heard
if
some
all of a
stupid
sudden at
shit,
the
but
end,
man.
it's found that there was a faulty conviction or something, then it should work its way through the courts. If Donald Trump actually cared about the rule of law, if Donald Trump actually did want to condemn political violence, then he would not have pardoned these individuals. But the fact that he did shows exactly where his cards are and where he.
Oh, great.
Fucking deep state, man.
I know. The swamp is just. muting Vince.
I don't know. To be clear, he agreed to do a debate in a hotel, which I would never do. I don't trust those hotels.
Yeah.
You know how they?
Yeah.
That's where the fucking Chinese agents get you.
But Vince, could you repeat what you were saying before you cut out?
Oh yeah, no, you're good. All I'm saying is about by necessity, Donald Trump saying that he can, if he did, and it seems like he did, condemned what happened on Jan 6th, and he would have let the court system work its way through the entire process. And if there was something that he, and again, I want to mention this as well, that's really interesting. You can't sit here and tell me that all 1,600 defendants had a faulty issue. That's absurd, in my opinion, especially in the eyes of the law. If you want to say that there's a few defendants that may have been, had some sort of legal issue, by all means. I'm not opposed to saying that a president is able to pardon who they want to pardon, but all 1,600, and mind you, not just that, we also saw them taking down some of these particular Jan 6 pages on the Department of Justice as well. So again, am I muted? Oh shoot, hold on.
No, we can hear you.
Okay. Oh, I saw Soy Pill talking, so I thought I was muted. No, that's all I was saying. Yeah, that's all I was saying. It's just again, and again, I'm glad Soy Pill asked if you condemned January 6th or not. So,
I mean, by the standard of justice that you just gave me, we can't even actually have a conversation about this. It's not even possible, just so you know.
What is the standard of justice that I provided?
You just got done saying to me that if a black man was falsely convicted of raping a white woman, that he in fact, my turn, my turn.
He's changing it.
Shut up.
He's changing it.
Shut up.
Go.
That if it was the case that a black man was falsely, and I'll give you a famous case of this, convicted of raping a white woman, that as long as he was convicted, he in fact raped the white woman. And so because of this, I can no longer actually even take you seriously as an interlocutor. We can't even have a serious conversation about this. How could that be bad faith? It's the same shit.
No, you said convicted. You said pled guilty.
I believe he's using.
So if a black man pled guilty in that case, he did still actually rape her? What? That's the dumbest shit. What are you talking about? Where do you guys live? What reality do you guys live in?
Hold on. Don't say you guys, because to be clear, that's not what I think.
I mean, obviously, Soy, you have to agree with me that was the dumbest shit you've ever heard when you said that, right?
So, Andrew, I want to be very clear.
I mean, that was really fucking stupid. Even on a scale. I know I'm just average IQ and stuff, Soy, but that was really fucking stupid.
Andrew said and agreed with me that in the eyes of the law, if you plead guilty, then you have done that said crime. I understand.
No.
And I did say, and I did clarify, Andrew, that's great. That's great. No, Andrew, that's great. So I'm going to continue speaking. So what happened is that I also said, if you did not commit said crime and you believe you are falsely accused, there is a process by which you can redeem yourself through that process. If you don't
that's not what you said, bro. No,
you said
not even in the same universe.
Said, did you commit that crime? And yes, you did commit that crime.
No, doofus. Here's what happened.
Good.
I asked if you're convicted for a crime. If you in fact committed it, and you said as long as it's the case that you were convicted, then you did in fact commit it.
Yes.
No, that's not what the question was, you bad faith lying.
The fact
oh my God.
Is yes.
All right.
Okay, clearly he just
law
is
yes.
law. I don't think he's so obtuse that he thinks that you just did it because the law says.
Bro, you need to re-listen to that clip, Soy. You guys are coping real bad on this one.
You keep saying you. First of all, I didn't say it, but it's very clear what he's saying, and you're like bad faith, like you.
That I'm the one who's bad faith now. He's backtracking his whole position. I'm the one who's bad faith.
I don't think he really. Do you really think he believes?
Yes, I think that he was caught. I think he was caught in a basic logic trap, and he bit the bullet because he's a dipshit. I think he's a dipshit, and he bit the bullet. That's what I think.
By necessity, me saying that someone should work its way through the appellate process is me recognizing that there are individuals. I'm saying is a matter of fact in the law. The law looks at it as this is a fact that you have committed said crime. It does not mean that you actually did necessarily. That is what I am saying. So when you said it is a fact, yes, it is a fact in the eyes of the law. If you're asking me to clarify, then that is what I am saying. That is why I'm acknowledging that there is an appellate process by necessity.
But did you in fact commit the crime?
In fact of the law, yes, because that's
not what I'm asking, bro.
Okay, Andrew, let me ask you something. Andrew,
the jury your question is like, yes, it's dumb the way you answered it, but your question is so stupid.
No, it's not.
He couldn't even conceive that you would think that he thinks that no matter what, if the law says it, it's true. Like,
and can someone answer?
What are you talking? It's okay. Do you hang on? Here, I'll clarify. Soy, I would even grant this, except for this problem. That he asked me, do you think that in the eyes of the law, if you plead guilty to something, you're guilty in the eyes of the law? My answer was yes, of course. But you agree that that doesn't mean in fact you're guilty. And he was like, and so hang on. And so he clarified. And then I said, so in fact, would you be guilty? And Dummy said, yes. Like, what do you want me to do with that, bro? What do you want me to do with that?
And now he's clarified. It's very clear.
No, I think it's a backtrack, but okay.
Andrew, you really think? Come on, dude. No one fucking thinks that. He just
they do think that. I think. I think that.
I want to be very.
You think, just to be clear, you think Vince Wilson doesn't believe that an exoneration is ever possible? That's what you believe.
No, I think that he was
there
biting.
Was a frame of moment in your time where, like,
yeah, I think he's biting. I think he was biting.
Like, to manipulate reality.
Yeah, I think he was biting the bullet because he didn't want to make a concession that they could have been convicted, and if they were convicted, that they could in fact have not been actually guilty of the crime itself.
I want to be very clear.
You think all the January 6ers are not guilty of any crime?
I think most of them are not guilty of any crime. Yeah.
All of them.
Most?
I didn't say all.
No January 6ers that did any violence.
There were people on January 6th who did conduct some forms of violence. And yes, absolutely, I think that there should have been some sort of punishment for them. Trump condemned them, right? This should not have happened. But the thing is like, well, on a case-by-case basis, not all of them did get pardoned, is my understanding.
One of them did a violent, seditious conspiracy. Should he be pardoned?
What did he do that was actually violent?
Plan to overthrow the government by getting the Proud Boys to go in and
what did he? No, not what he was convicted of. What did he do?
To be clear, Enrique Cario wasn't even there. He planned this violence from the different locations.
So what violence did they do then?
They tried to. They broke into the fucking Capitol.
Oh, come on! That's not what violence. What actual violence did they do? Tell me.
Assaulting police officers and breaking into the
Capitol. Wait. Your claim is that they assaulted police officers?
That's part of my claim.
Okay, demonstrate it. Demonstrate that that the Proud Boys were assaulting police officers on J6. Go ahead. I just want to make sure that we're clear.
To be clear, this was because of my question was, do you think that everyone...
Demonstrate it, fucker.
Every single time that I pin you down on something, you try to ask a question and weasel your little way out of it.
How do I... You asked me a question, I answered it, you fucking idiot.
Were there people that committed violence on Jan 6? You said, well, I think most of them weren't. And then I said, do you think anyone did? You said, yes. And I said, should they be pardoned? And you said, well, I have to go on a case-by-case basis.
Yes.
So just to be clear...
And then you brought those cases up, stupid.
This is you're completely missing the nuance. You're completely missing the nuance.
He's not missing the nuance. He knows he got fucked up.
Okay, I agree.
Every single person, whether every single person was pardoned justly. Can you answer that?
I haven't seen any evidence to the contrary.
Okay, cool. That's what I'm looking for. Now, anyway, I'll go look that up if you really want me to.
Yeah, I really want you to.
I'm already trying to find it.
I know. Chat GPT's not helping you though, right?
No, I'm on right now. No, I mean, I can look. I'll look it up on Chat GPT if you want. I was trying to avoid that.
You might as well use it now. I mean, once you're in it, you're in it.
Okay. All right, I'll use ChatGPT for you then.
All right, you can go ahead and look that up. Again, so I'm a little frustrated that as many concessions as we're even able to give, which is, hey, in this one specific instance of a specific tweet, this might be something that might encourage more rioting and violence, and potentially we can condemn that. In fact, I do. I say if this was at all responsible for any additional rioting or violence afterwards, I think she was a little irresponsible for promoting this bail fund. But when we get down into the nitty-gritty of, well, I don't know which people committed violence where, and maybe this pardon, even though he didn't have the ability to do it for 4 years. Well, he did it after 4 years, so it's okay. And also, I don't explicitly condemn the violence because really it wasn't that bad. A majority of the people weren't there. It was a mostly peaceful insurrection or whatever you want to call it. Right. So I just don't understand why I give you a crumb of good faith when you're unwilling to admit even the slightest of a thing that promotes this as asymmetrical.
That's really funny because the questions that you asked for the concessions on, you got. So what was the bad faith part here? You asked the concession.
That was my question.
You asked the concession.
Do you guys condemn the violence on January 6th?
I already told you, of course, just like Trump.
Okay, cool.
What part of that concession?
Did you part?
Wait, hang on. But hang on. So this whole diatribe you just went on about how. Hey, stop, bro. My turn. My turn. My turn. Yeah, Soy. My turn. Soy. Gotta listen to the mod.
Andrew real quick.
Gotta listen to the mod, Soy.
Soy, just let Andrew real quick, and then you can respond.
Gotta listen to the mod.
I will mute you if you don't shut the fuck up.
Go ahead, Andrew.
That's right, Soy. So this whole diatribe that you just went on about how we were bad faith and made no concessions, you just had backpedal on 15 seconds because both of us said any violence on J15th, we condemned. just like
now,
Trump did.
Do you think that pardoning them is going to perpetuate that in any way, shape, or form, or encourage them? You said no, right? Because that's the actual concession.
It
in the
seems
argument, as to whether or not
unlikely,
the
yes.
actions hold on, it's my turn now, Andrew. Whether
I was
or not
answering
the
your
actions
question.
of people, no, you're not answering my question. I know you're not going to do it, but I'm going to try. Maybe
Okay,
John
go ahead.
will. Point is that the actions of the politicians, so Kamala Harris explicitly condemning it, you won't ever grant us that that's enough. But now you're saying that Trump doing it is enough. But when I say that Kamala Harris specifically, this is the concession, is allowing these people potentially to get bail for potentially violent actions, which potentially might cause more violent actions to happen, that is a concession. Are you going to concede that any of the rhetoric or the actions of President Trump or any of the Republicans at all might encourage more of this violence?
We have not seen that it is the case.
That's the concession. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Wait, hang on. I wasn't. Let me at least answer before you start doing the fucking joyride. So, the thing is like if you can demonstrate a link like we just did to you between this Republican rhetoric. Between the Republican rhetoric and what's going on, you can show me the equivalent of, hey, fascist catch. You can show me the equivalent of all these people who are saying that this type of rhetoric, at least in their own little manifestos, they seem to be sourcing it quite a bit. Show me the fucking equivalence, you fuck. Show me.
It's so crazy. No, you're right.
Answer this question. I'm just gonna say one sentence.
Kamala Harris's bail fund is the reason I'm shooting Charlie Kirk. I totally remember that happening. I totally forgot. Sorry, you got me.
Wait, what does that have to do with anything? No, he didn't miss the point. He didn't miss the point. He just is avoiding the point. He's just avoiding it.
Directly responsible for this. I'm saying it was irresponsible for her to promote a bail fund that may have resulted in more violence. And the link that you showed was a guy getting released a year later, not from this bail fund, and doing a completely non-political violent act. That's what you're hinging on.
Wait, I thought that you granted that even if this was the case, in order to look for the logical consistency, and we were completely consistent. Yes, now you're backtracking a second time.
But no.
Now you're backtracking again, Soy?
I'm saying that's condemn. And now you're saying, well, I refuse to condemn Trump for these actions because you have to establish the link. You haven't established the link with Kamala Harris. I'm just assuming this could have had actions, and it's worth.
Do you agree with me? Okay.
You refuse to concede.
Well, let's find out if this is true.
Vicious conspiracy may or may not lead to more violence.
Let's find out if this is true. Do you think that if there's a bail fund present during these riots, that the likelihood that people will show up to them increases or fucking decreases?
I'd say it increases.
Okay, that's it then, Soy, you fuck.
Okay, that's the link.
Here's the point that you're avoiding. I need to mention this. Real fast.
I just love doing this to these people. I just love doing this to these fucking people.
Dude, he literally addressed me. Come on, Corbin.
Okay. There's a massive distinction here when you post a bail fund during the riot and pardoning someone years after.
Now send me my fucking money.
Years after.
Send me my fucking money.
Can you name a single act of violence?
No, what's the difference?
I'll tell you the difference. The difference is when there's riots going on and the rioters see the bail fund, they say, maybe I can do more riots and I can get away with this.
I enjoyed that.
Any evidence
no indication that when someone gets pardoned for a crime,
hold on, that's
that they did, that they would ever.
I love you too, Darkstar. No homo, though.
4 years later, you pardon the people.
I love all of you. No homo.
What general election
act of violence?
Because if you say no homo, it takes away the gayness.
Let me ask. This is the most important question. This is the most important question. It's the most important question.
How could they possibly try the front? John,
I gotta get this question out.
Hold on. So let John let John go again.
Let John go again? He's asking me a question.
I mean, let him finish, and then you can go. Let him finish, and then you can go.
It's a one sentence question. Can you
I like that better. No Diddy. I love you guys. No Diddy.
As a result of the January 6th pardon.
Yeah, can you name me the election that they would try again to do? What general election?
Answering a question with a question.
No, because you got to understand that you're saying the litmus test for this is, well, if you put the bail fund in the middle of the riots when there's another opportunity to do the riots, therefore you're encouraging it to happen again. And yet there is yet to be another opportunity to help Donald Trump overthrow the election, at least not until the midterms, if not the 2028 election.
No Diddy.
So they literally haven't had the opportunity yet, but
no
somehow
Diddy.
This doesn't indicate that they might try again, even though they're completely now innocent of all crimes that they did on the day that they did it. They haven't had the opportunity to try again. How does this at all map 1-to-1?
So it's an argument of the gaps. It's just like, I can't demonstrate it, but in the future, maybe.
You can't literally overthrow an election because there isn't one. How could they possibly try again? What election are they going to go overthrow right now?
Wait a second. I thought you just got done saying that Gavin Newsom was saying that he was going to run for a third term, and that when he ran for the third term, what he could do is we could get JD Vance.
Go overthrow an election.
I want before this gets too far away.
Before
this gets too far away, I want to mention this with John because John asked who was pardoned by Trump that later committed a crime. I got a great one actually. I have a story here. This is from The Guardian. It says authorities in Texas say they have captured a convicted U.S. Capitol attacker who was pardoned by Donald Trump at the start of his second presidency. Andrew Taki, 36, was arrested on Thursday in Leon County in connection with charges filed about 120 miles away in Houston for the January 6, 2021. He was, where is it here? He was charged with solicitation. Yes, solicitation of a minor.
But again, if they're being consistent, they'll say that's bad. I would say that has.
Wait, he was soliciting a minor?
Yes.
What is it? So what does it have to do with anything then?
Well, that's my argument, but you guys are going off about
what are you like? What are you talking about?
Who went out and killed a guy a year after the fucking riot happened, not immediately after, and has nothing to do with a political.
No, hang on. My argument was just this: it's the case that just having those bail funds increases the chance of political violence, and the fact that you only see them on the left, you say yes, then we've already established a link. You can't establish back the other way.
Well, he just showed you a criminal that made more crimes happen after he was pardoned. The increase in crime happened post-pardon.
Yeah, he hasn't correlated that had actually anything to do with that. He wouldn't have been able to commit the crime if
he was in jail, Andrew. He did it because he was pardoned.
Wait a second. Wait,
was it political violence?
Yeah, it had nothing to do with political nothing.
Political violence?
Was what?
The guy who stabbed someone, like the one example you brought up, was that political violence?
No, that wasn't political violence.
I want to be very clear. Taki also was he assailed police with bear spray and a metal whip on the day he and other Trump supporters descended on Congress. So this wasn't somebody, by the way, who was like just there at the protest.
But I just want to point out though that then anybody who's released from prison, right, can attack somebody, and then we could just retroactively say, well, then you shouldn't have released him.
Well, no, Andrew, to be clear.
What are you talking about?
I'm saying you would have to show some sort of political violence happening as an extension. And I agree that obviously there's probably a likelihood that if people think there are bail funds, they might go again and do it. But you guys can't even fathom in your head that if you get pardoned for trying to overthrow a general election, you might try again the next time there's an opportunity. But because there hasn't been one yet, well, I guess it can't happen. We'll just have to wait and see till 2028. It couldn't possibly happen.
I understand. So just to make sure I got your argument correct, yes, you believe that bail funds likely do increase the likelihood of violence at these political events, but there's a potential future in which the now pardoned after years of prison January 6ers may attempt to do another overthrow, insurrection that you don't believe happened. Is that right?
Okay. All right, hold on. Let me frame it.
Hang on, is that right? No, the insurrection. What overthrow? There's no overthrow. There was no insurrection, right?
Here, let me phrase it because it's not right. You got a little things wrong. So you believe that Kamala Harris putting a bail fund for people who were just out where they weren't supposed to be and letting them go back out in the streets and protest peacefully is somehow equivalent to Donald Trump getting the people who think they did nothing wrong and actually were on there under explicit orders from him to their belief and saying, hey, this is okay and you can do it again. This is nothing. This is absolutely not going to promote political violence. But Kamala Harris releasing peaceful protesters. I mean, that's insane, Andrew. That's crazy.
I don't actually understand what that particular straw man has to do with my steel man I just gave.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I'm sorry that
I was giving a steel man. You could have just disagreed with a steel man.
Fuck off. That wasn't a fucking steel
It was.
man.
I was actually making sure I got your position correct.
You are so retarded that you couldn't possibly fathom that telling
you
someone
say
that you tried to overthrow
all
the
you do is
election,
filibuster. Do you want to have the conversation or not?
Totally okay.
Do you want to have the conversation or not? If you do, you can't filibuster.
Okay, well here.
So just chill out and let me just ask you this.
Well, you interrupted me.
Well, I was in the middle of you can't interrupt your interruption. I interrupted your interruption. I was talking and interrupted your interruption. I'm sorry I interrupted your interruption.
Can I finish my question?
Yeah, so you can ask your question.
Okay.
Yeah, but here's the thing. When I let you go through it,
whoa, hold on, Corbin.
I just want to make sure I'm setting conditionals.
Can I finish my question?
I just want to make sure that after that I can actually answer.
Yes, Andrew, you can answer after.
All right.
Okay, Andrew, you can finish. Okay, so when I say, yeah, it's probably likely that there's some increase of people that might do more rioting if they got a bail fund. That's obvious, and that's such an easy concession. But when I ask you, if someone is pardoned explicitly for the crime of trying to overthrow the election, it probably increases the likelihood that they might try again, knowing that the person who might benefit from them overthrowing the election would pardon them again. You cannot say yes to that. Is that true?
Yeah, this is actually correct. But why? Can you give me the why behind it?
No, why don't you give me the why?
No, that's not how Steelman's work, stupid. Tell me
I'm
why
asking you a
I
question.
hold
I'm
the
not
position.
steelmanning you. I'm asking you a question. Please answer.
No. Okay, so yes, these are not comparable. You're talking about a distinction of 4 years in prison.
There's no general election for them to overthrow.
I thought I was going to be allowed to answer the question. No?
God.
Yeah, so let Andrew.
Yeah, so these are not comparable. When you're talking about bail funds just being present, you can't point to anything on the right which is like this. You've conceded this point, demonstrating that, yes, not only is the left committing violence, but is also setting up organizations in which to bail people out when they're part of this. The reason that you guys keep on saying, for instance, most of these arrests happen in curfew. Well, yeah, they sweep them off the street because most violence happens after fucking curfew. That's why they're sweeping them off the fucking streets. That's one. The second aspect here, which makes no sense to me at all, they spent years in prison. Clearly, the people broadly must think that there was a massive injustice which happened here because Donald Trump got elected again. It's not like I'm in some like marginal tinfoil hat conspiracy bubble. Most people seem to agree that, wait a second, something seriously wrong happened with the prosecutions of these people in J6. They re-elected the fucking guy, and he won the popular vote on top. Calm down. I thought I was still not allowed to answer. Right? Okay, so anyway,
and then you respond.
The thing that's really funny here is like they're not comparable at all. Having that 4-year prison, you always omit that. They had 4 years in fucking jail before the pardon. You think that doesn't act as a deterrent, and then you say, well, wait a second, no more election can even happen. Then what the fuck is Gavin Newsom talking about, how Trump's going to stay for a third seat and how he's going to accomplish that? He's just going to deploy the military and declare himself the king of the fucking United States? Like, what are you even talking about here, man?
Okay, so thank you for admitting your entire base is fucking retarded and that you didn't understand my point. The point is there has not been an election for them to try and overthrow. They were in prison for 4 years because Donald Trump was not president and could not pardon them for those 4 years. As soon as he gets in power and as soon as he has the ability to, he gets them out. And now, if there is another election in 2028, they would very likely at least just admit that they might try again in the next election, which could happen. And then Donald Trump might say, hey, I pardoned you once for this. It's very likely that I'll pardon you again for it. Why the fuck wouldn't they try again?
Because they don't want to spend another 4 years in prison. If it is the case that the new government, hang on, calm.
Andrew,
why is nobody ever allowed to actually answer the question you ask? It's very likely that if there's a deterrent of, the federal government's going to fucking persecute you if you even show up. If you don't even commit violence, right? They're going to persecute you and throw your ass in fucking prison. And by the way, they had 4 years. This was the most investigated. I believe that this was the largest U.S. investigation in history. I mean, you can ChatGPT that. I think that that's the case. The largest in history. You think we don't have the facts on it at this point, and that the president and his Justice Department can't go through the facts before they give these pardons, and he was swept in by popular vote. It appears that there could have been some injustice going on there. I'm just not willing to accept your narrative that when you say, I don't agree that this was actually an insurrection. Okay, I don't either. And so the thing is what's really funny is these guys get put away for 4 years. You think they're going to go back out and try a second time. Yeah, fucking right, dude. Yeah, fucking right.
Okay, so to be clear,
I also do want to mention 4 years for assault is a very long time.
Hold on, one at a time.
Go ahead, John.
Soy and then John.
Okay, cool. So you're completely ignoring the fact that these people are dead to rights, convicted of trying to overthrow the government. The reason I don't want to hang on the insurrection point is because I know you love playing the definition game there, and it's not really worth it. We can see what they tried to do. They tried to steal the election for Donald Trump, and once he had the power to...
Wait, so you were lying, and you do think it's an insurrection?
Why is no one ever allowed to finish a point, Andrew?
So it was an insurrection?
Everyone else.
So to be clear, they tried to overthrow the election, and Donald Trump pardoned them for that. And you're so incapable of admitting that maybe people who realize that, hey, if we were successful and Donald Trump had become president, he would have pardoned us right away, or we wouldn't even gone to jail in the first place. That's so beyond the pale for you. Couldn't possibly conceive of it. But when I say, yeah, maybe some people who looked at a bail fund might say, well, I don't have to worry nearly so much about crime. I'm being so fucking good faith in granting you that when you still haven't established that any people that rioted did it because of a bail fund. I'm just saying, it's probably likely, but you're incapable of admitting that maybe someone pardoned for a crime might try to do it again in a way that gets their guy elected so that he pardons them again, or they never go to jail.
Well, wait a second. When it comes to the realm of logical possibility, and grant almost anything is logically possible, Superman could exist, for instance. We're talking about the cases of likelihood, right? What I saw was Nick Fuentes distance himself from Trump after J6. I saw a lot of the prominent people who were there afterwards distance themselves. I don't want anything to do with this guy. And a lot of the people who were released, were very mad at Trump. They were very upset with Trump. They thought they should have gotten a pardon on his way out the door. It does not actually seem as though these people are going to be willing to show up to overthrow any fucking election, or that they ever did in the first place. And by the way, let's point this out, that you just lied about your position on insurrection twice, right? I asked you if it was. I asked you if it was.
John Paul that he could respond.
So the insurrection, right? Point when I asked you, was it an insurrection?
I said, let's say no.
No. He said no. No, you said no.
Conversation go further. Let's say
you said no. No, you didn't say for the sake of the conversation. You just lied about your position. You were hiding it.
And I'm saying you in parentheses for the sake of the conversation, because the implicit thing is we're not going to get bogged down.
Okay, well, let me just ask this: was it an insurrection or not?
Okay.
Let's say no.
No. Your actual position. Hey, I'm not trying to bog it down. I want to know the answer.
Let's say no, because it's not really worth like.
Was it an insurrection or not? Yeah. So you got nothing. You fucking lying sack of gutless weasels bullshit.
I'm not lying. I'm saying let's say no for the sake of the conversation.
Yeah, but I don't want here.
Andrew and Soy. I promised John Paul that he could respond.
Okay, so there's a lot that needs to be addressed here, because I think, Soy, you're missing or just outright avoiding all the points that we're bringing up. So I'm willing to grant, and I do grant, actually, that if Donald Trump pardoned people who you can confirm committed violent crimes and did that during like a time of insurrection on the Capitol or violence, that could potentially lead to more violence. But
so only
there's a lot of conditions. There's a lot of conditions.
Let's say yes for the sake of argument.
Yes, let's say yes.
Let's say yes.
There's a lot of conditions.
That's what you're saying. I'm not saying.
No, let's say it for the sake of argument, though.
I don't agree with this argument.
Oh, I don't agree with you not agreeing with the argument.
Oh, well,
let's just say for the sake of argument, we'll hide all of what we actually think about things from now on, Soy.
Is the definition of insurrection prevalent to
Okay, so here's the thing.
I'm not asking. Did I ask for a definition of insurrection? Fuck.
We don't know enough about each individual case to make a claim regarding the pardons. But like, so we're just assuming that he pardoned someone who actually committed a crime.
No, we're not. Actually, Vince brought up a specific example for you, John, and you said, well, actually, the violence
there's many points. Okay.
Here, I like to jump in at some point.
What Andrew was bringing up, which is very important, is the concept of deterrence. When people spend time in jail, and they spend time in jail, that acts as a deterrent. I'm not going to go and step foot even close to the Capitol if I know that people who just standing there recording the building on the outside were given years and years of jail time, let alone actually trespass and assault officers.
Okay, by your standards, can you tell me one violent criminal who was released on bail immediately after the BLM?
For the sake of argument, I can tell you 5. For the sake of argument.
Kamala Harris, when she put out the bail fund, that was during
what a
the
gutless
riots.
fuck.
People can see that, and they could reasonably commit more crimes.
Okay. So as long as the crime happens within a longer time, it's okay, right?
Here's
it's okay if the crime happens 8 years later, even if they were encouraged over the course of 8 years. That's fine.
No, that's not the main point.
Okay.
You're not encouraged. By the way, 4 years for assault. That's a long time.
What if they thought they weren't going to get another 4 years?
This drink is really good.
The maximum you get for a misdemeanor assault most of the time is a year.
Well, it's
so
a felony
4 years. I'm not going to.
So it's not a misdemeanor. That's a little different.
And their felony assault is generally up to 7 years. 4 years is a long time. It can be up to
20 sometimes if it's with a deadly weapon. Actually, I didn't chat GPT that. I googled.
I don't think people want to spend any time.
Would you lie to us about that though?
Google, by the way, Soy.
We're talking.
Did you lie about it though, Soy?
We're making a point about probability. We're making a point about probability.
for example, that
Okay,
Kamala Harris
there's two things.
specifically
There's a
might be
point about
promoting violence.
probability, and then
You're
there's a
safe enough
point
to do
about
that.
linking
You're
the
capable
actual
of doing the
cases.
same.
Can I finish real fast?
Yeah, go ahead.
Point about probability. The probability of someone counting on the fact that in 4 years their president is going to get elected again and pardon them makes it extremely unlikely that they're actually going to commit another act of violence. When
Okay,
you
what
post a
percentage would
bail
you put on
fund
that,
in the
Tony?
middle of a riot, people are going to think I can escape this potentially, and that is
What
going to make it
percentage?
more probable to commit violence.
How many
The
people?
other thing is the
What
linkage
percentage?
between these violent acts.
many
We
people?
made
Dude,
a
why can't this
condition
guy
that
even
you
make his
need to
case,
link.
dude? Just calm
Because he's
down.
like talking out of his ass about
You-
points that
you-
he's not
so-
even.
so look-
I talk.
Okay,
there's
You know,
the
it's funny is
probability
like-
point.
hold on, both
I
of
gotta
you
make
guys-
some
let
points
John,
he's
let just
having.
John Paul finish.
He's been
Soy.
super respectful to you. At least let him make his case.
Yeah,
He has.
let's just let.
I got-
I'm
let-
gonna
I got-
take you off for a beer,
John,
John.
go.
All right, so there's a link. The other point, other than probability, is the
Yeah,
point
shut
about
up,
linkage.
Soy. Shut your
So-
fucking mouth, Soy.
We have given the condition that when you're talking about responsibility for political violence, there has to be a link between the act and the violence. We demonstrated a direct link between Kamala Harris posting bail fund and
Shut your
people,
fucking mouth,
rioters,
Soy.
committing acts of violence.
You have
You
not
have, there
demonstrated
is not a case. There's not a case where as a result of the pardons that people have committed more political violence as a result of the pardons.
You still have not
haven't made that
demonstrated
case.
the case
So
that this
there's
bail
you
fund
have
caused
two
Sorry,
issues.
sorry,
I mean,
let-
your
John,
only
John
argument
needs
is
to
about
finish real quick.
potentiality. Your only argument is
Please
about
demonstrate it.
potentiality that
Demonstrate the
potentially
link.
in 4 years, if JD Vance or Donald Trump or whoever's running for president doesn't get elected, then probably there's a potential for people to form an insurrection and overthrow the government. Probably some people will commit violence because they're probably counting on the fact that in a number of years, there will be a president of their liking that gets elected again and pardons them. That's a completely outrageous.
I love this shit, okay? I love rolling around in the mud and making this guy look stupid every fucking 5 seconds. I love that shit. Don't get mad at me. I fucking love that shit. Okay, I do.
on doing more political violence because you haven't done it
Yeah,
yet.
rioters.
You can't just say rioters. You have to show that her bail fund encouraged rioters to go out and do more political violence.
You
gotta
did.
show me that.
You did.
No, you didn't.
You made the concession. You made the concession. No, you made the concession.
Oh, okay. So when I grant you the modicum,
You
of
didn't
good
grant
faith,
shit. It was a concession.
Oh, it's not a grant.
No,
It's
it was a concession. Yes.
So it's a concession. So
You're
it's definitely
conceding the point because it's
Definitely not.
true.
Okay, it's definitely
Yeah. Okay. Wait.
Okay,
If it's
okay, yeah.
true,
Let everyone let
true.
Vince come in now.
yeah. If it's true, right? There's a difference between it's likely versus it did. If it did, then there should be something that you guys can point to.
Actually,
say
this is
it
a good.
did happen.
This is actually a good point.
So-
So you're right. We're talking about likelihoods. And so when I asked Soy, do you think that the likelihood drastically increases when you have a bail fund? He says, yeah, it does. Of course, it makes sense. Hang on, it makes sense.
Wait.
Hang on, calm down.
I got 2 words out, by the way, before you.
Well,
just,
I
like,
thought.
jumped in. Like, yeah, this is,
Well, you just
Okay,
asked me a question.
Just-
Like, why do you guys ask me questions and then when I
I
start
was giving
answering
a
them, you get
statement.
upset?
I didn't ask you a statement. I said.
Okay,
that
go
if
ahead.
I said that there is a difference between likelihood and that something did happen, and that if you guys say that something did happen, in fact, that you guys should be able to provide something to back up that claim. And that is something that I feel like you guys have not done. And again, reiterating my opening statement that you guys have fully proven is that anytime we bring this up, you guys deflect. You'll say that it's some other kind of issue. You will not take responsibility for the fact of what you guys do. But when it's the left, you guarantee it wouldn't take any modicum of evidence. You could just see that you, like you said before already, by the way, you could see a word on a bullet case and automatically go, yep, that's the case. But I guarantee you, if there's somebody on the right, you guys would not sit there and you guys would have all sorts of just like, well, wait a minute, guys. Hey, he might have PTSD. Oh, he might have had trouble with his marriage. But you guys would never, ever, ever grant that amount of courtesy to anybody on the left.
Well, here's the thing. It's really funny, right? It's like, I don't know why you think it is that our faculties go out the window. When it comes to this stuff, like I think a tranny fucker who fucking puts out, oh, hey, fascist catch. I think we can put 2 and 2 together there, right? I think we can put it together. I know it really jumped to, shut up. It's my and Vince's exchange. I know, Vince, that upsets you that we were able to call that correctly because it was very simple to do based on the circumstances of what was going on with that particular case. But the funny part here is like, I don't even
When I mentioned
I
J6,
actually don't even understand the ultimate criticism. If we're talking about likelihoods, then all we're doing is making the same comparison that you're trying to. We're saying that the likelihood here, if it's the case that you have bail funds, you make the concession, of course, that the bail funds are there, that is going to increase the amount of people on the ground, thus increasing political violence, versus do you think that it's likely that people who spent years in prison after a pardon they didn't even know that they were going to get is going to somehow increase the likelihood that there's going to be another example of J6? You also say that we're running away from responsibility or somehow deflecting, and yet when asked directly, do we condemn any violence which happened on J6, we both said yes, and so did Trump. Not only are we not deflecting, we're taking mind events as exchange. Calm down, Soy. The thing is like, how many concessions can we possibly make in good faith and demonstrate this for you? And by the way, let's just assume for a second we never did. We never, ever took responsibility for anything. What the fuck does any of that have to do with whether or not the left commits more violence or not? What? Even if I deflected from everything and doubled down and said Trump's the man, he should have overthrown the fucking government. Even if I said that shit, Vince, what the fuck does that have to do with whether or not the left commits more violence or not?
We moved on from that, Andrew, because you were unable to accept the data and didn't have data of your own that countered ours, so...
Yeah, very scientific, Soy.
Okay, here's a more one-to-one example that you guys will.
Can you let Vince fucking answer? Can you let Vince answer? Ever?
I highly doubt it, but I do want to ask you that real quick.
No. Daddy Soy has to come into bailouts to bail out Vince.
I think we should find the guy who roughed up that protester in my.
Soy, seriously.
Yeah, let Vince fucking have his exchange. You calm down. Twirl your fucking propeller or something for a second.
Okay, I got a stim.
What did you want to say to Andrew?
Yeah, I just
think
sorry. Go ahead.
I think it has a lot to do with it. Again, if the right refuses, and again, going back to my opening statement, because I love to reference that, is that again, in the absence of condemnation from the right, and you guys may condemn it, that's fine. But the vast majority of people that I have engaged with and that I have seen online don't necessarily condemn it outright, and the most that I have seen have done otherwise.
Ooh.
And so in the absence of
That's exactly the look I was
expecting. I
can go look. I'm sorry, dude. My internet sucks.
Yeah.
You can look at the left. When you look at the left, or the
now,
right,
who on the right
Stephen
didn't
Miller.
condemn violence? They all condemn violence, as far as I saw.
Okay,
so let me ask you something. Let me ask you, since you talked about dog whistles. If Gavin Newsom said, I condemn this rhetoric, and then goes in and then pardons or bails out, because you guys have already said this implicitly with Kamala Harris, then bails out all of those people that protested, would you still say that Gavin Newsom condemned, and that he condemned the rhetoric? Would you say that same thing? Because you seem to not be doing that with Kamala Harris. In fact, you were saying
I
quite
understand
the
what
opposite
you're saying.
with Kamala Harris.
You're saying, so like if this something equivalent of J6 happened in California, and then Gavin Newsom decided that he would go ahead and pardon all these people after they did 4 years in fucking prison, would you agree that he condemned the violence the day after? Yeah, probably.
I don't believe it. But
that's nice.
nonetheless.
An argument from incredulity. Andrew, I don't believe you. That's nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I don't believe that you don't believe me.
If Donald Trump were to say, hey, I will pay the bail funds for people who assault protesters at my things, and that's in the middle of protesters doing things in his rallies, would you say that might be...
You mean that gotcha where he was being tongue-in-cheek? It was very cleverly done there, Soy.
Okay, so even in the most one-to-one example, it was a joke.
Show me the bail fund. Show me the bail fund, fuck. Show me the bail fund.
LOL bail funds. I think bail funds.
LOL bail funds?
Bail funds are funny, dude.
Yeah.
I think they're hilarious.
So show me. Can you show me the actual bail fund? It was a clever gotcha, but it didn't work. Show me the bail fund. Show me the bail fund.
There is a Patriot Legal Fund. There's a Patriot Legal Fund that's helping pay for legal fees. All of those who are on January 6th, they're also helping.
So there's not bail funds for protesters then. So not that.
Oh wait,
we don't have that.
Andrew. I could have sworn you said these don't exist on the right, and he just brought.
No, that doesn't. That's not a fucking protester bail fund. You lying sack of gutless shit.
What would you call them then?
Who? No. The J6ers are people who are being politically persecuted. This is long. This is long after.
If you didn't
this
smoke
was
and you weren't so
long
fucking
after.
fat, it would be easier to lift the goalpost and move
this
around.
Was
dude.
long.
Christ,
this
dude.
this was long after. You should use those dick sucking lips of yours to go ahead and actually make the case.
Shit. Hey, girls love these. You should ask your wife.
Make the case. Make the actual case. Ask my wife.
Doesn't it suck when people yell at you and you get all flustered?
I'm sorry.
And your masculinity just
Are you ever?
You start to feel all that.
Are you ever going to make an argument?
Andrew?
Are we just going to troll?
About all the other men
all right, let's troll. Hey, if you want to troll, let's troll. Is that what we want to do?
Soy.
Dude,
Hey,
is that,
Soy,
is that where we're
I
going?
think Soy,
Soy? Are we just going to do trolling? If you want to do that,
Soy,
we can do that.
I think it's the pickle behind you that's got him a little flustered.
Olive.
I didn't even think of that. Holy
Olive.
shit. Well, check this out.
Jesus Christ. Okay, we're gonna throw things.
Do you keep
John
one by
Paul.
you just in case now? Do you have someone else loosen up?
We're gonna kick it over to John Paul
I mean,
now.
here's the thing though, Soy. Like, if you want to have legitimate
Andrew,
debates,
I just think we're gonna kick it
I
to
don't give a
John.
shit. Here's the thing, Soy.
Oh,
If we're gonna
you're,
if we're
really
just
letting
gonna
Andrew walk
do,
over you there.
if we're
That's
just
pretty
gonna
cool.
do, if we're just gonna do
No, I don't like
trolling,
playing
Okay,
favorites.
now we're doing
I will
trolling.
mute- I will mute everyone.
Now we're now we're just doing trolling,
we're
bro.
kicking it to John
No,
Paul.
no, no. Now we're gonna
this
do
is
some
not descending
trolling.
into just me.
No, no, no.
We're
We
kicking it to
must
John.
do trolling now.
We're kicking it to John.
We have
John,
to do
what do you
trolling
think?
now. John's not allowed to talk anymore. Nobody's allowed to
I'm
talk.
tired
We're
of moving
just
goalposts.
doing
Let John
trolling
do this.
now.
All right, John Paul,
Nobody's
go.
allowed to speak. He's allowed to insult my
I will- I
wife.
will-
Right? He's
I will-
allowed to do
Hey,
that.
you're the one who called her a 6.
Hey,
monkey
hey,
dude,
when
right?
when your fucking family's doxing's up online, don't get mad at me. You opened it up. You opened it up.
Sure.
You opened
right,
that shit
so-
up. And the thing that's funny is
Yeah,
like,
I will-
wait, hang on, Soy.
We
Was
did it
that
first.
was
Just
that
like
due
the Proud Boys? You're just playing
was that
self-defense.
due to your rhetoric? Did you bring it on yourself with your rhetoric? By the way, we don't do. By the way, never.
I think the insult.
By the way, we never do. By the way, we never do doxing ever. I'm just pointing this out to you. I'm just pointing this out
I'm
to you.
pointing out that you are an incredibly weak man baby who postures as super masculine, but the instant someone insults you, you get flustered and feel like a little bitch.
No, you're just
And
filibustering. You're not.
So
Your
clearly
insults,
upset about it.
your
And now
insults
you're
are shit.
You're being really mean to me.
Your insults are dog shit.
embarrassing.
You wear a
dude.
propeller on your fucking head. You're a fucking
and you
doofus.
yourself has said, "Hey, he does it as a joke," but now that you think
Hang on. Can
you're
we?
trying so hard?
Can you
you're
tell me?
grasping,
Can you
go
tell?
fucking
Can you
smoke
tell me
another
why your
cigarette.
live streams only
Don't
have
worry,
4,000 on them, and your
Because
other streams have
because
9?
people subscribe
Yeah.
to me for video essays. They don't give a
Yeah,
shit
so
about
it's
this.
really weird.
This
It's
is
almost
fucking
like you're
botting
lying.
your show.
It's almost like you're lying about. Yeah, I think you're botting your channel. You want to talk about
You
that?
think I'm botting? Dude,
Yes.
why would I bot to have 200 fucking people, dude? You
I
think I go on these live
I
streams
don't
and they make
understand.
no money
Yeah.
and I pay for them? You're fucking insane.
Exactly. That's
dude.
what's weird. How do
How
you
much
have
do I-
200,000 plus views on some of your videos? A lot of your
People watch
videos,
me for things that aren't this.
but
This
you
is
don't make any fucking money. You make
People,
zero
this is
money.
your life. You try to market yourself
Mhm.
selling debate for some reason, even though
Yeah.
you're dog shit at it.
I don't know. I
come
beat you
out
every
here
time.
and You're like, guys, this is my whole fucking life. Debate is awesome. On your birthday, instead of spending time with your family,
If you were
you
good at
debated
debate,
for the
then
whole
why
day.
won't you
I
debate?
go out, I make video essays, and then I go live
Mhm.
a fucking life. So yeah, my fucking audience doesn't like this shit. It's awful, and I tell them I'm sorry. All the descriptions are like, I'm so sorry you have to watch this absolute dog shit. You love it. In
Yeah.
any other situation, you'd be a fat, overweight construction worker who dies of a heart attack at
I know.
45. But God, thank God that you have the fucking internet and a bunch of retards think you're
Mhm.
fun to listen to. So now you can make money doing something else. It's embarrassing.
Anything
You're a
else?
fucking embarrassment of human.
Is there
beings, dude.
anything else, Soy?
I have a lot more. to
How's
say.
how's that apartment treating you?
It's actually pretty nice.
I don't know. I'm about to move into a $1.4 million house, and that's pretty
Yeah,
fucking
yeah,
nice too. That's pretty
I've
fucking
said it
nice
multiple
too.
times. You've got
Oh.
a MAGA audience of a bunch of retards who
Ooh.
also love giving money to
Hey,
people who think.
Enjoy
I've seen
the
people that
propeller hat.
like,
Enjoy the
you
fucking
keep
propeller
joking
hat, bro.
about these people
Enjoy the
awful.
fucking propeller hat.
When you have nothing to offer them, you're so bad. I don't know why you self-admit to being low
Hey.
IQ. Why not just say you're smart?
Hey,
At least then they'll
bro.
have a master.
I don't know what to. Hey, I don't know what to tell you. I'm sorry that I make so much money online, and you're seethingly jealous. I'm sorry.
Hey, that's the one thing you've said that's correct. I wish
sorry.
I made as much money as you.
I
but
know.
Unfortunately, I can't be as stupid.
I can't even. You can't even imagine how much I'm making right now while you're filibustering the debate.
I can totally imagine.
Yeah, I know, but dude, you really can't.
No,
It's so much more than
right
you,
now,
bro. It's so much
I'm
more than
actually
you
able
think.
to project even 8 years into the future when I'm making a lot.
You're
of
not
money.
ever going to make any money
When
online
the next election happens.
because
and
you
I'll
can't
just
you
roll-
can't debate. You just
have a
troll.
Scrooge McDuck vault.
You
full of
don't even
coins and
debate.
bills.
You
It'd be
just
amazing.
troll.
And I can imagine the election too.
Look at
It's
this
so
debate. So who do you think's going to come and debate with you again?
Dude, if and no one ever debated with me, you realize I get to focus all the time on the things I want to do and not the things that you
Then
love
why
doing.
is it that you wanted to do this debate then?
actually did. You know, it's so funny. Corbin, I was going to be super nice to him. He reached out and he was super
Mhm.
sweet. And he said, "You're the first person I asked." And then the next day he said, "And Andrew Wilson's confirmed." I said, "Jesus Christ, I have to talk to this fucking retard for another 3 hours." But I didn't
think
want
the
to be mean to
specific words
Corbin.
used
And
were
John, I
obtuse.
just want to say you've been incredibly respectful, and I actually am. I know you're at UC Berkeley. I'll go out. I'll take you to lunch, and I think you can be saved because you're not stupid.
Mhm.
You really are. You've demonstrated actually at least in some integrity and the ability to like process a logical argument, even if I think you're completely wrong. So.
You don't know anything about logic. You're the worst at it. And by the way, if you were good and skilled at debating, why wouldn't you just keep debating? Why do you have to troll the debate?
This accomplishes nothing. You're
Yeah,
unable.
you can't do it. You
the
can't do
littlest
it.
amount of thing. The only thing this is for.
The
is
only
to
thing
reach
you
our
could
audience.
do was
Whoever's
attack my
talking
wife. That's
okay,
it.
You can accuse me of botting. Half these fucking
Yeah.
people are your guys in here.
Can I
like,
just
"Dude,
ask you?
Andrew
Can I just
Wilson
ask you
W,
one
buddy,
question?
so great,"
Just one
because they're
question before
so-
we wrap the debate
they're
up. Have I ever?
constantly declaring
Have I
you
ever
like you.
attacked? Have I ever?
You
I just want to know. Have
Oh,
I?
now we won.
Have I ever attacked your family once?
You don't know my family. But I'm
No,
sure you
because I wouldn't. I just don't do it.
wouldn't. You
I
wouldn't
don't
attack
do
my
it.
family.
I
Oh,
don't
good
do it.
gracious Andrew, kind Andrew. He's just the
Yeah.
nicest guy out there. Guys, I want to go look at all the clips of Andrew being so nice. He's just the most good faith, kind person. He's
I
always
am
reaching out
actually.
to
Yeah.
build bridges. He's never done anything awful, misogynistic, or
What have
awful
I
to
done
all these other
awful
women.
to? Name something I've
Like,
done awful to
oh, yeah.
somebody.
No, you're right, Andrew. I think you're the paragon.
Can
of
you tell me what
beautiful,
I've done awful to somebody or not?
angelic behavior, and it's
Yeah,
so amazing.
it's just
And,
you're
you know,
just a
anytime
low tier
anything
troll.
comes to you, it's just because they hate you and you're good debating and logic. It's so fucking awful.
What's the
I
thing
don't
is
know why
funny?
everyone's so mean
Yeah,
to you.
just
I don't know why
filibuster.
I don't know why I'm so
Filibuster
mean to
the
John,
debate,
you know?
troll.
Why wouldn't I get to say? Why don't
Yeah.
I insult John's family? It's
You're
probably
not-
because John.
Look, you're
not
not a
nearly
serious.
so
You're not a
much-
serious person. You're not a serious debater. I don't know what to tell you.
Are
Thing
you
is,
calling me not, how dare
thing
you call me
is,
not
the
serious,
thing is
Andrew?
like I
This
came
is
on.
your job. You're
Yeah.
talking to this fucking
Yeah.
retard and you're bragging about it. Like, I'm happy. For
I
you
was
that you're
doing a
making all this-
favor for Corbin.
Come out here and say I'm not a serious
I was
person.
doing a
This is your
favor for
fucking life.
Corbin.
Look who you're talking to. I do this for
I
fucking
appreciate
fun.
everyone
This is your
giving me a slice of
career.
the
And that's exactly why you're going to keep on working at the fucking low tier factory you're at. I'm sure. The thing is, though, is with Corbin, and here's the thing's funny. I came out to help his channel. I told him the last debate I would, and so I did.
Yeah.
I came out
You know
and
what?
did exactly that. But the thing is like never forget that you're a low tier fucking troll, and you could have had a great debate here, and you just chose not to.
It's all me, buddy.
This was all you.
Well, you know what? I appreciate all of you fine gentlemen coming out and giving me a slice of your clout. I really appreciate that.
I don't got no
Um,
clout. All
but-
right, look, I'm trying, but I ain't
You're
got.
more
I
clout
got-
than I am, Vince. All right, you got to
Yeah.
give yourself some credit. I'm not like the.
I'm,
bottom of the totem pole
I,
here, all
I
right?
will say, I mean, now that we're kind of winding down a little bit, I mean,
Yes, we are winding.
I
This
don't-
is winding down.
I
Um,
know this is like this is winding down. I will say,
so-
I mean, just on the top. Oh, I'll let you go ahead.
So we are closing in on the 3-hour mark. I don't know if any of you gentlemen have a hard out. I can keep going for a bit, but it seems like we've derailed a good bit. How do we kind of want to proceed?
Yeah, I'm good with closing statements.
All right,
Yeah,
everyone else good?
that's fine.
Alrighty, then, Mr. Soy Pill, where can people find you, and give yourself a closing statement?
Yeah, I'm a low tier factory worker, the Soy Pill. I do video essays on YouTube, but don't go check those out because I need to fail out and pursue my real career of whatever the fuck it was going to be otherwise. I wanted to come here and talk about the rhetoric of our politicians and how blatantly obvious it is that the right wing is refusing to condemn anything. And while I would not put this onus on John or Andrew, despite Andrew's reach, I think it's very clearly a demonstration of what those Republican politicians do, which is deflect, excuse every single time. There's never, ever a modicum of responsibility for when their side and their rhetoric does something awful. You can ignore the study if you really want to, but I promise you, if you go through it, yeah, you're going to find some things that you might say, maybe that belongs here, that belongs there. But until they provide some sort of study that shows that actually the left wing is overall doing it and not declare, well, it's because of these videos I saw and it just kind of feels like more are happening, I'm going to go ahead and say that probably the right wing is doing it more. And I'll even concede, look, it seems like the left wing's doing it more this year, and that's not good. I condemn it. It shouldn't happen. But guess what? The right wing's being super fashy. So that don't justify violence against them. But I mean, if you literally go on the HUD.gov right now, the radical left are going to shut down the government and inflict massive pain on all American people, according to the current Trump administration. It's always the entire left's fault. It justifies everything that's ever done to them. He's going to pardon them. He's going to do awful things. And hey, when it gets really, really bad, maybe we will have to do some, boogaloo stuff. But I don't think we need to get there. I think we can have peaceful elections and fight back against this really well. So thank you for having me, Corbin. Andrew, it was fun. I know the insults go back and forth. I don't know why your wife's off the table when, clearly she's in the debates with us. I would never go after your children. I hope they live prosperous, beautiful lives.
Oh,
John,
I can't believe you're so nice.
This is my
Okay, let's not.
You're so nice.
I know
Let's not.
you have very low inhibitions, but yeah, John, hit me up on Twitter or something. I'll take you out to lunch out in Berkeley or something. So,
All right, Mr. John Paul Leon, where can people find you, and what's your closing statement?
All right. So first of all, I just do want to thank everyone for participating in this debate. I do think we did touch upon a lot of crucial aspects of the debate and conversation, which was very nice. People can find me on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube primarily. Instagram and TikTok is where I have the most amount of stuff. YouTube, I just have like a single short there. Usually if you look up
I really like the drop
at john.paul.leon on Instagram and TikTok, you should find me. On YouTube, I'm John Paul Leon / Sharp Young Minds. And so I think regarding closing statements, I do want to say throughout this debate, I do want to emphasize the moral and clarity and the framework that we have set up. Again, political violence is never justifiable. And the key distinction that I made early on in my opening statement and throughout the debate was that the acts of violence from the right is committed by the fringe right, and it is always condemned on the mainstream level. The fringe right also doesn't have a strong ideological backing or basis within the mainstream right, which is also fundamentally important to the conversation. Whereas the distinction I made between that and the left is that the mainstream left often normalizes and excuses violence and is typically in unison with these movements. You have Black Lives Matter, anti-ICE riots, you have pro-Palestine movements, you have people getting indoctrinated, or I don't like to use the word indoctrinated, but I would say mobilized at university campuses, completely radicalized. You have pro-life journalists being punched. And in reality, our top leaders of the Republican Party are the ones who are being shot and killed when you don't see that same impact on the left. And that's why I wanted to draw out my other key distinction, which was the just pure scope of everything. When you look at the whole scope, the most damaging event of sustained political violence in the U.S. history were the BLM and Antifa riots.
He's right.
You don't see that same amount of impact.
Yeah, I muted
from
myself,
the right.
though.
So frankly, if we
it's true, I'm muted, but I always mute
analyze
myself
it based
so I can
off
talk
of
to you guys.
responsibility and political violence, there's many of these things
Unless
that
it's
these
TikTok,
studies don't
and then they
classify,
fucking-
many
they're the
things that
ones
they
who
include
mute
that
me.
they shouldn't include. And overall, when we just see the total impact and influence and responses from both parties, we see that the Republican Party has always condemned it. My opponents will say that they have not condemned it, but they have not shown a single example throughout this entire debate. And you see all of the other things going on with the left and how they're refusing to condemn it, like Destiny not condemning the assassination of Charlie Kirk and the attempted assassination of Donald Trump. We can see that the situation is completely clear. The fringe right commits violence that we don't support. The Republican Party doesn't support. The mainstream left, it rationalizes, excuses, justifies, tolerates violence. And we see that has large-scale impact on the political landscape.
All right, Mr. Vince Wilson, give yourself
to
a
get
shout
through
out.
this.
And yes,
Yeah, I'm gonna try to do this without the internet
Closing statement.
hiccuping here.
All right.
First of all, yes, I'm the Vince Wilson Show. I do live streams. I do TikTok shorts, YouTube shorts. I said TikTok shorts. And if it's not a dedication, yes, I'm traveling and I am doing my best to try to facilitate this debate. I do enjoy having these debates with everybody on here, so I appreciate everybody on here. To my closing statement, I just want to say I think it's hilarious to hear that it's the left that continuously deflects when all we have seen throughout this entire debate was the right continuously deflect. How anytime we bring up an example of saying, hey, look, here's a contradiction, it gets deflected. I think in my opening statement, I mentioned even that there was and so what I was trying to get at by this is saying that when the right deflects, it creates kind of this victim mentality where essentially when one side, the left particularly, says, hey, guess what? We condemn this. I pulled up numerous quotes from Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, Nancy Pelosi, you got Chuck Schumer, who consistently condemn this rhetoric and hold it their own. They actually don't. They go through with the actual judicial process. But what we see is that the right will do this. We saw this recently with the Mormon incident, where they said it was PTSD, it was this or that. We saw with January 6th, where Andrew Wilson and we have seen where they sat there and said, well, there was no fund set up, but there was a fund, and then all of a sudden it didn't count. So what happens in this situation is when the right continuously deflects and they never take accountability, and the left does, it creates this idea that the left is the perpetrator. We've seen Donald Trump mention that the left is fascist, that the press is the enemy. We've seen where they talked about Stephen Miller, who's going out there and consistently using the same rhetoric. And time and time and time again, the right will use the same exact language. But because of the double standard, they don't hold their own to that same standard. They don't tell their own to stop using fascist and communist and Marxist when it may not even be necessarily need to be applied. But they don't hold their own to that same standard. And that is the issue at hand. So that's where I'll end my closing statement.
All right, Mr. Andrew Wilson, give yourself a shout out and your closing remarks.
Yeah, my name is Andrew Wilson. I'm the host of The Crucible. Obviously, by the way, and all of you guys here should know, I don't advocate for any type of doxing whatsoever, never have. I was using this as a rhetorical scale to show how you can escalate when it comes to rhetoric. So I've never done that to anybody, never going to, just pointing this out, that when somebody says it's on the table for you, for I can attack you, it's like, well, you see how that rhetoric will escalate. So, but anyway, that aside, right, and by the way, nobody here actually would think I would ever do anything like that,
right,
nor instruct my audience to. But anyway, this aside, these guys got completely fucking murdered in this debate, and it was bad. And the problem is they just keep saying, well, you won't concede. You won't concede on these various points. We don't have to concede on these points. It's not necessary because the points were in our favor. We stuck to the facts. When you try to take these two positions and then you try to meld them as though they have some equivalency, you're just incorrect. And we were able to point this out over and over and over again. And we were able to logically demonstrate it over and over and over again. Why do you think Soy got so pissed off that he started trolling at the end and literally filibustered the last half hour of the debate? Because these guys were so frustrated that they couldn't contend with the fact that we were able to point out examples of escalating left-wing violence. And all that they could come up with is, well, maybe in some future election somewhere, the people who were pardoned for J6 who spent years in jail during this witch hunt might try to come back out and overthrow it. It's the most ridiculous argument that anybody's ever heard. And we have every reason to be skeptical of it when they make it and draw out that the parallel here doesn't really make sense. Also, it's not high-profile leftists who are getting shot. It's high-profile right-wingers, including Trump. They tried to assassinate him, too. And we all know that the likelihood of that happening again from a leftist extremist is probably pretty high. Nobody thinks it's not even these two people. So the problem is that when you stick to the facts, this is what ends up happening. They end up not conceding out of good faith. They end up conceding because when you ask them a logical question like, don't you think if there's a fucking bail fund, more people will show up? They say yes. Show us the equivalent on the right. They couldn't. All Vince could come up with is after J6. A fund was opened up for legal assistance. That's not a bail fund. These people are the worst, fucking most atrocious liars I've ever heard in my life. So thing is like, ultimately, point for point, that's why we end up taking the W. So with that, I appreciate it, guys. You know, that's the end of that. But it'll be the last time for us, Soy, unless you ever want to have an actual serious debate. But I just like the whole idea of like, I'm just going to come on, and then when you get frustrated, you just troll for fucking 40 minutes. I just don't have any time for it anymore.
You started with the dick sucking lips, man. I don't know what you're
Nah. But anyway, go ahead.
Thank you everyone for joining. Big shout out to Andrew and Soy. You guys have literally infinite times more the audience than I do, so I really appreciate you coming and helping out and having fun on the channel.
Well, never forget, you might be obscure right now, but in 3 years, you might be fucking the biggest thing who's ever existed. You never can tell how these things turn out. I'm always happy to assist people in their channel growth. I've always been really good about that. I don't care if they're right or left. If they have legitimate debates, I'm always happy to assist with that.
Yeah, man, I really do appreciate you guys coming out. And big shout out to the audience. We have 150 live viewers. That's almost the size of my channel. That is unbelievable. So everyone in the live section, thanks for coming out.
Are you
make
on
sure
YouTube?
like and sub?
Raid into you.
Sorry.
If you're on YouTube, we can raid into you too.
Oh yeah, I'm on YouTube right now. Corbin Sales. You can find me online at YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, and the like. Thank you everyone for my amazing guests tonight. Shout out to John and Vince as well. You guys all did fantastic.
Thank you.
All right, thanks
Thank
for
you,
coming
I
on.
tried.
Thank you very much for having me.
You're very welcome.
Later, guys.
What a slog.